interesting subject to talk about because just again, he's getting the blame on everything. It's just continuum. And so now these riots have started in Atlanta. There's a planned like whole entire protest thing going on. I forget the date, but it's coming up in the next week or so, and it's going nationwide.
Saturday.
Yeah,
Oh, is it
A lot
Saturday?
of them are doing it Saturday because that's what he's supposed to do his military parade.
Yeah. So, well, he's not sending National Guard to those states, and these people are just going bananas. Just
It's a good time.
I was thinking about that on the ride in here, and my thought process was simply this. If you had a block party every year, and one neighbor showed up every year and caused shit, every time he comes, he did stupid shit. Eventually, you'd be like, you know what? Maybe we'll just have like the fire department and the cops stand by at the end of the street for when he's going to do his stupid shit.
Right.
Now, this guy finds out about it and says, hey, I'm going to invite all of my friends to come over and do more stupid shit with me. But don't worry, we're going to blame all the other neighbors because they had the cops standing by. I mean, that's what's going on here.
it's
It's
insane
that
you
simple
can't.
of a scenario.
Right, but it doesn't. It avoids all sense of reason on the other side.
Right.
Is my whole argument with it. No matter what he does, and look, I don't worship Trump. I don't think
either.
that he's a human being.
Right.
Everybody has their mistakes, their quirks, their nuances, whatever it is you like or don't like, or whatever it is about him. But the way that they blame him on everything is just asinine to me. It's and they can't see it. And the same people that have all this hate are the same ones that say, "Well, we're in a cult." I'm like,
Right. Well, I mean, if you look at how we got to where we are right now, it's because Biden's sole goal when he came into office was undoing anything Trump did while he was in office.
was it?
He did, yeah. I mean, he came in, he immediately started writing executive orders that undid Trump's executive orders. Trump had the border fairly secure when he left office, and Biden decimated that.
I don't think.
When I say Biden, I mean the four people that were running.
Well, right. That's what I was going to say. I honestly, and I'm not taking, I don't even agree with Trump on that one where he's like, Biden wouldn't have done this or Biden wouldn't have done that. I just don't think that the guy was in any mental capacity to have any wherewithal to do any of the measures that he had talked about. Like,
Right.
if you just pulled him out of the crowd and away from his people,
Right.
you'd get a bowl of ice cream and some gummy bears out of the guy, and that's about
I'd
it.
hear stories about kids rubbing the hair on his legs in the pool.
Right.
Oh, as long as it's all in the same direction, it's not creepy.
Right.
You know, if you just mess it all up so it's crazy, then that's weird.
Apparently.
I mean, to let little kids touch you, that's like apparently that's okay.
Right. And
For
nobody else
them,
said, well, that's kind
yeah.
of weird or gross or what have you.
So, for those of you joining us, welcome to our episode of 56+1. Just shooting the shit is what we're doing. But we do have a special guest today. We got Kevin Brown. Some of you might recognize him from our one of our segments of This Is America. Retired firefighter, author, and ends up being one of our Thursday night buddies now. So thanks for coming,
I'm
dude.
happy to be here. It's always a good time.
You see you on camera. You're looking pretty good.
Hey,
I see you trimmed up the beard a little bit.
a little bit, yeah.
So I am selling a house for those that are watching. I don't know if you caught it on my Facebook, but
Did you? Not everybody can connect the dots with your profile and everything, but last night, Eric's a prankster. You know, and I don't know if you know him as well as I do. Obviously, you don't, but you probably can tell
I'm
that he's
getting a hint.
right. So I'm sitting out on the patio last night. I got a little fire going, and my wife comes out, and she's got her phone. She goes, "I just got a text from our son," and she goes, "He's wondering what's going on," and she sends me she shows me a post on Facebook from him. And it's pictures of our house from Zillow when it was on the market. And he puts basically, I have a house for sale. It's $500 to $20,000 or best offer takes it. And he used the description from the Zillow.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, what a bastard. So I'm like, don't acknowledge the post. I don't want him to know that we saw it. Right?
yeah, I was waiting on that too.
Yeah. He finally.
I was like, damn, he hasn't been on Facebook this long.
I saw it like the
Rihanna?
first minute, right? So I'm like, well, Rihanna goes, oh, you should you should go on Zillow and see if his house is on there and post his house. I go, no, I got one better. So I go, I have a bunch of pictures of his boat.
I was going to say, you must have put his boat up. No, I didn't.
Yeah,
That's even better. I knew where that was going as soon as you said better than his house.
Yeah. So I had some pictures from a couple years ago, and so I blanked out the reg number and where it was at and everything and the faces, and I took a description off the internet of that particular model boat. It was funny.
I'm like, how did he know how many
who called
gallons?
who called who first?
So it was like he's not responding. It's like 2.5 hours. I'm like, what the hell's going on? So
He was moving his boat.
yeah, Rob, one of our mutual friends, Rob was with Eric when he posted it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I started laughing.
I kinda figured
And he's
it.
like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm selling Rich's house." He's like, "Rich is moving." I'm like, "No, he doesn't know it yet, but I'm just selling his house."
Yeah.
And I
You
showed him.
should
He's
have
like,
added at least another 250. You might have taken it off the
Oh, it
paper.
was-
he's like, "That's funny."
It was hilarious. So then I text Rob. I go, don't say anything to Eric. I said, I saw the post where he's trying to sell my house. I said, but go to my page and look at the ad I just put up. And I said, let's troll the hell out of him. So I'm getting these legitimate, because I'm like, I know I'm going to get people
Right, they're like,
inquiring.
oh my God,
They're like,
yeah.
this is a good boat, you know? So I'm getting all these messages, and I got to keep telling everybody, I'm like, listen, this is, I said, you're collateral damage. I'm sorry. I said, the boat's not really for sale. I'm trying to get my buddy back. I said, but just go throw some like ridiculous offers. So one guy's like, I'll give you $6 in a handy. I got an old Ford F-150 for sale. Someone else is like, I'll trade my Harley. And I mean, there were some legitimate offers on there, but I'm like, yeah.
One was my old truck.
Yeah, one. So,
Said, "Well, take it on a trade." I got a red Ford.
and some cash.
That was Jacob. So
Jacob,
he's
yeah.
actually pretty.
It was pretty funny.
Yeah, he's got a good sense of humor.
So yeah, so I took the post down because I was like, I can't be doing that. I mean, you already saw the joke, and
Right.
I'm like, I don't want to be
And you spend all the fielding
yeah,
questions. on
fielding
some of those
questions.
jokes.
So he texts me like 2 hours later, and he's like, "Did you see Facebook?" And I go, "No. What are you talking about?" I go, "You talking about the riots in Los Angeles, or what's going on?" He's like, "No, I'm selling something." And I go, "Oh, that's funny." I said, "I'm selling something too." And I sent him a screenshot of the boat.
I was like, "Touche, you mother."
Got
Like,
him.
where did he get those pictures from? And why has he got white face?
That was funny. That made my night.
That's good.
So you knew not to respond at all. That's what it was. Because I kept checking. I was at Lowe's and doing some
Oh,
other
I
things.
knew
at the house.
that you would be checking that thing every 2
yeah.
minutes. I'm like, I told Rihanna, I'm like, she's like, I'm like, don't respond. I said, I don't want him to know that we know that he's doing this. I said, I'm going to get him back. So yeah, it was pretty funny.
Well played.
But
Yeah, that's what Rob said too when he put the boat up. He's like, "Well played."
Well
That's
played with the boat.
fantastic. Yeah, no, that was pretty good.
so yeah, so you're doing. For those of you that usually tune in on Thursdays, summertime's busy for everybody, but Eric's you've been doing a little remodeling at your house.
Yeah, and it was kind of so I planned it. Well, I started to plan it ahead, but I told the general contractor that's doing the work, he's somebody that I've known for some time, and I'm like, I'm going to need this, this, and this done. And I don't think he understood the magnitude of what we were talking about at the time. So he just randomly texted me the week before, and he's like, "Are you ready? I'm done. I'm ready to come over." And I'm like, "Oh, crap! I got to drop everything now and kind of shift gears because I've been waiting to get him in there." And yeah, so he was like, "Can we start Monday?" I'm like, "I don't even know what all we're doing. I can't remember what we talked about, but let's come over Monday, have a game plan, and you can start Tuesday." So it's been kind of hectic because it went from a functional house to everything's now out in the living room, and the electrical work's being done. Rob's cutting wires and getting some sockets and outlets and things like that readjusted. So yeah, it's been a bit of a bear, and I haven't had much time outside of that to do anything. And
So that's your bedroom. So you've had to relocate.
oh yeah, we had to
another part
relocate
of the
everything.
house, and,
Right.
Yeah. So that's a one bathroom you're down as well.
Correct. And you don't realize how much you need the
Oh,
two
yeah,
bathrooms
it's-
until you're down there one.
Right. Yeah. When you're used to two. Yeah. Absolutely.
I will say this.
Hey, Milo. Good to see you, buddy.
We had the TV in the room, and so I was going to hook up the cable, and I asked Dana, if she wanted, I was like, "Do you want me to get the cable hooked back up?" And she's like, I've actually been sleeping better. When we go in there, we go to sleep instead
Right.
of going in there to watch TV and then kind of crash. But I agree, it's almost serene in some senses to not have it in there. It's kind of like these phones, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, when you're not, yeah, if you have it in your hand, you're dicking around on it all day. And if you
Yes.
just put it away, then you're like, where's my phone?
Yeah.
Then
That's
you're
it.
like panicking.
You forget where you put it last.
Yeah.
Last Sunday I left I was in a hurry. I was running late. I had to get down to get on Chuck's boat. And I left. I didn't realize I didn't have my phone until I was probably 20 minutes away from the house, and I was already running late. And I'm like, shit, I can't turn around now. There's no way I'm going to make the time before they pull off. And so I went down there without the phone the whole time. To which look, I only want it for my wife, kids, and
Right.
any kind
Yeah,
of
emergency.
emergency, really.
You have it so often, you do start to feel a little naked when it's not.
Yeah, it's like you're
Yeah.
definitely forgetting something,
Right.
like your wallet.
When I was working, we'd occasionally get a call and my phone would be on the charger or something, and we'd take off, and I'd be like, I don't got a phone.
Oh, yeah.
What do I do now? So my answer was I got an Apple Watch that had cellular, so at least it
Oh, there
still
you go.
rings on the watch. I mean, I couldn't hardly hear it. People call me and be like, "What?"
Yeah. But at least you know someone's trying to get
Yeah.
in touch with you.
Yeah.
And if you text back or
That was
whatever.
my small solution there, but
My concern was they didn't have any way to communicate with me, and this is what happened the night before. So the night before, I told them I wasn't going to go, and then I asked them if they filled the spot, and they did, and I said, all right, count me in. But then they didn't hear from me, and we normally leave the dock at like 7.
Oh, so you're on your way, and they're like, is he showing up?
I
Is
got
he
there at
not?
7:15, right? And so they didn't have any way to contact me, and that was my concern. I was like, I'm rushing to get down there, and
right.
that's an
I still
hour
wouldn't be there
ride.
when I get there.
Yeah.
Right. So even as soon as I breached like the hill where they could see me, I honked the horn twice, let them know, hey, I'm here. But yeah, and whatever.
Kevin, you're watching on your phone too? It says you're watching
Yeah,
and
I
you're
got that
here.
done. Well, I saw some comments come across on there, so I was
Crazy.
curious what they were. So I couldn't read them on.
Oh, yeah, I
my eyes
can't.
aren't that good.
I can't.
But these phones, they do cause a sense of stress.
Oh, for sure. But they also give you that what is that?
Reassurance?
Endorphins get released as like a reward. And
yeah.
there's a whole study on swiping and clicking, and like these phones are highly, highly addictive.
Yep.
Yes.
Not like the Greek freak beer.
Right. There you go.
Not that this is addictive. I just love it. I need to have it.
Right.
I
Right.
need to have
As
it.
often as I can get to it.
So, Kevin,
Yes, sir.
what have you been up to, my friend? We had a nice interview with you, and then
Traveling around
afterwards,
a little bit. I had a book show in Middletown a couple weeks ago. I have another one coming up in July in Weathersfield. I think. It's,
okay.
I can't remember the date exactly. I think it's maybe the 13th or 17th. It's a Saturday, whatever that Saturday is, in July. We're going to be right on Main Street in Weathersfield, doing a book show. It's through an organization, so there's going to be a lot of artists there, over 30.
So when you do a book show, what exactly are you doing? You got a booth set up?
I set up, I set up a table, and
Yeah.
I have my books there, and I talk to people, and selling books hopefully, but
Yeah.
mostly just getting my name out there, meeting some people, and hopefully they're interested to read what I wrote. So
Yeah. And I still haven't read your book. And
I know, and I'm gonna throw some at you pretty soon. So
yeah, as long as it's not a full beer, you can throw a can at me. But
I'm gonna stop offering you cigars or something.
oh my god, I'm such a horrible. Well, like Eric said,
you know that won't happen.
he said you're never going to read the book, and I go, I will read it. It's just probably not quickly.
You'll start it, and then you'll love it, and then you'll be at the end going,
No,
"Oh,
I'm
crap, I
sure.
need to read the next one."
I'm running out of time. It seems like
It's been hectic for everybody.
Well, you're talking about going to sleep easier at night. Reading is a proven help.
Oh, there you go. There you go,
Oh.
Eric.
Take your 15 minutes right before bedtime.
Why don't you
read-
get on
read-
Amazon and buy a
few
K.
pages.
Brown book?
so. I got no problem buying the book. It's
He
here's
just
my
doesn't like the reading part.
Yeah.
and that is a truth to that, right? It's got to be
He did explain he likes different style of books. He likes the.
He's a very technical guy.
yeah. So it's
He'd rather read the assembly manual for my barbecue grill I just bought than a fiction book.
and actually before I head over here, Tina goes, "Don't you got to go?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah. I was actually reading how to do the Schluter install in the tub because I want to make sure that they're doing it the right way." Right. And so I have something to back up. So that type of stuff, I don't know. I'm not necessarily looking to read. But when I read, that's generally
Yeah.
what I read. But no, I will. I'll
Don't
get
take
it.
away our fun of harassing you about it either.
Yeah.
So,
No,
You're gonna
fair
take
enough,
your licks,
fair
dude,
enough.
and you're gonna like them.
Yeah.
So, Kevin, do you read often?
I read.
Do you like your book?
I do like my book. I did read my book. I read both of them.
I bet you read it more than once too.
Well, in total, yeah, because I have to read what I wrote when I'm writing it, obviously. But then once it's published, I read it again, just to get the feel for the book and how it comes across and stuff like that. They try and pretend I didn't write it and see if it still interests me. So, so far, both of them have. So,
And from start to finish, how long did
Right.
it take you to write it?
well, like you to write it, well, that all depends. My first one took about probably a little over a year. The second one took probably about 9 months. And the third one is past a year already, so we'll see how that comes out.
So,
I've been a little off on the motivation lately, so
What do you attribute that to?
just a lot going on. There's, my wife really wants to get us to a point where we can move, and I have a lot of projects at home, so there's that, and just
Out of state, in state, or
we're gonna move to South Carolina.
you are?
Yeah,
Where?
a little town called Ellery, population of about 1,000 people.
Okay.
Nice.
Where's that in is it shore? It's not shoreline, right?
No, it's right along Lake Marion.
Okay. All right. That's closer to Georgia line, isn't it?
Yeah, probably about in the middle. It's about in the middle of South Carolina when you're traveling 95.
Okay. I thought for some reason I thought that was south.
No, it's actually when you're going down 95, you literally go right across Lake Marion on 95.
Maybe that's why I've seen
And
it.
when you get to the southern side, the first exit is the one you get off. So it's pretty much that
Sweet.
easy. Yeah.
Nice.
And the population? So it's not like a Myrtle Beach or a Conway.
Oh, no, it's a very small town.
Right. You can get some nice property out there and some quiet parts. It's actually
We're
I
about,
think it's pretty.
We're fairly close to the lake. So I wanted to be close to a lake and a marina, and we found a little spot that's like that. So right now we're in the process of just trying to convert the lot to a building lot. So I had to take a trip down there just last week.
So when you're talking about projects around the house, you're talking about to sell the house in preparation thereof?
Yes. I mean, so when we bought my house, it was about 1,600 square feet, maybe a little bit more. And now it's about 2,700 square feet.
Wow.
And I did all the addition because it's in my wheelhouse. But I didn't actually finish every little project.
I think that's look at behind that TV over there.
Hey.
We don't have to throw stones. I mean,
We
listen,
can do this in your house.
I took myself under the bus. I mean,
No, I do
didn't
that.
draw anybody under.
I have like little pieces of baseboard molding where I'm like, I'll get that later, and then I leave it, and then I'm like, where's that piece go? And so-
Right.
Yeah,
And then 15 years go by, and you're like, wow, I never did that.
right.
I always tell Eric, like, he'll point stuff out. I'm gonna be like, yeah, I'll put that on my list of shit I'm never gonna do. That's I have a long list of that.
Mine's pretty long too, but
Yeah.
now I got to do it. So
Right.
they do get careful; it catches up with you. So
So for the viewers that don't know, I have a flat screen hung on my wall, and it's me and my wife, and I couldn't take the TV down by myself, and she couldn't help me because she's got a bad elbow, so I never painted behind the TV. So Eric will come in here with a level and a laser pointer and his white glove, and he looks behind the TV. He goes, "Why didn't you paint behind the TV?" I'm like, "You want to help me take it down?" No, I'm not going to do that.
Wait a minute, that one's not fair. I actually didn't even notice the TV till you pointed it out.
Well, I just knew it was a matter of time before you were going to see it.
What I did point out though was the line. I mean, when we were doing this, painting the room, and
Oh yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
you can't leave the white line out. And you weren't in a good mood that day. And
I'm never in a good mood.
so the white line does make, I think, all the difference in making it stand out to those.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to put it over in the little corner.
That one I might have noticed. I think I did
Yeah.
say something about that.
So
But
yeah,
to your point, we all
Eric
have
did come in here, and like you guys can probably see the man cave's painted up like in a Harley theme, Harley orange and gray, and so there's chair rail and crown molding and everything. So I started painting the crown molding, and of course I did the chair rail. And Eric is like, "Oh, what would look really nice is if you did a white stripe." I'm like, "Dude, I go,
Right,
don't
you-
you think I have enough shit to paint without adding And funny enough, he did help me. He said, he goes, "I'll come over and I'll give you a hand," and he did. He spent a couple nights over here, and thank you for helping me out.
Yeah. Well,
But,
whatever. I look at it as we were just hanging out. Whatever.
Yeah, we were hanging out.
Who cares? You're painting a straight line with some masking tape between it and listening to him
that's
gripe
for,
about
that's
it.
for beer.
Yeah.
The
So
masking tape is for the beer.
Doug Malazzi, he just commented. He goes, "Did you ever fix under the dartboard?" So I think this was it Doug? Was it you that threw the first dart and threw it directly into my wall?
No, you told me somebody did.
I think it was Doug. It was Doug who did it. The bastard. And then he moved away. He never came back with spackle to help me
Is
fix
that what
it.
the sign's for, to cover up that dark mark?
Yeah.
Well, there's more than one hole in that. under
Yeah,
that
it
board.
depends on how many Thirsty Thursdays we have.
Right,
And,
right.
But yeah, that was it. I think it was the first dart thrown right into the wall. I'm like,
Well, that's the way it's supposed to be.
yeah, that's out of the way.
If he didn't do it on purpose,
Right.
that's even worse.
It's like my truck. I buy a truck. I didn't have a new truck for 10, 12 years. I buy a new truck, and the first week I cut it short into my driveway, and I caved the quarter panel in on the retaining wall. So that was cool.
On this one?
Yeah, and it's still there because I refuse to fix it. I'm like, "Yeah, whatever.
Battle scars.
Yeah,
Buying new vehicles overrated.
yeah. Well, it was actually a used vehicle, but it was new to me. So Doug says, yeah, it was him. I remember it was you. I'm never gonna forget that, Doug. I'm never gonna forget that. Actually, my wall's never gonna forget it.
Right, right.
And he said he's a horrible dart player. I think he beat me. Whatever.
Oh, I dropped that. Oh, I got it. I got it.
Oh, it's a trick. He's
It's
going.
a trick. Where'd Eric go?
So I still, Eric and I, we've been, our lives have been hectic, as you know. Everybody's
Yep,
lives are
right,
hectic.
right.
But we ended up going up to West Point Academy, which is actually the United States Military Academy in West Point, New York. And
That was like a month ago, right?
yeah, so we interviewed
Greg Laux.
Greg Laux, sorry. It was a fantastic interview. And then we came back, and then we're trying to get through the book, and I don't know.
Well, it's Washington, so it's going to be a big episode. But you had your vacation,
Oh yeah, that's right. I went to Phoenix.
and then after that, then I got caught up into this house issue.
Yeah.
So then I'm just time has been limited. But I mean, we're stacked out, so we're in good shape.
Yeah, we're very.
We just
far
haven't
ahead.
done Thursday
But
heads up.
that's the other thing. We've been concentrating on trying to get these episodes recorded.
Right.
So we still want to get your wife in here,
Okay.
and Doug Capazzi's wife in here, and get their point of view as spouses of first responders and veterans, and you know we talked about some of the PTSD and
Yeah.
you know living with someone who has to deal with those kind of you know emotional issues or whatever the case may be for different people, but it's still on the radar, and I know
I think it'll be a good episode for you.
oh, I think 100%. And we still have a couple people that Nick Leveris has put us in contact with that we want to get on. It's
He
just
he knows
timing.
everything. Everybody, I guess I should say.
So I think
yeah.
this summer it does make it difficult. One, we wait up here in New England so long to get
Some decent weather.
right.
Yeah, we had what like 10 months of winter this
Yeah, I
year.
think it's supposed to rain torrentially again Saturday.
Yeah.
One of the sheetrockers today was saying this is the 16th Saturday it's rained.
Yeah,
In a row.
In a row. Yeah.
16.
Yeah.
That's 4 months,
It's crazy.
right? It's 4 months.
Don't worry, the state will try and figure out how to tax us for it now, saying we have excess rain and we should.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, you guys are hoarding water.
In your ground by your wells.
We're gonna do a saturation test. If you're saturated more than 48%, you're gonna get taxed.
If
per
it helps
gallon.
to put the podcast in perspective, I'm not even anxious about getting the boat in the water this year. I mean, it's not that I'm not anxious. I'm just normally I'm
just
like
right.
very
I heard
excited.
it's for sale anyhow, so
and-
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah.
It'll go, but no one's gonna buy it because they can't use it.
Right.
So, yeah.
I know.
So
I didn't
it
even
was
open my
just-
pool this year. I'm like,
Just in
we're
perspective.
traveling back and forth so much. We're like, why open it? I mean, all the work and effort that goes into opening it this year, and then we're gone the whole month of August.
Right. And then the rain. I mean,
Yeah.
you got to keep on top of it. I mean, how many thousands of dollars of chemicals to keep the
Right,
the
from turning
algae out
green,
of it?
yeah.
And, yeah.
Does it cost that much in chemicals?
Well, if you keep getting rain, I mean, I'm not thousands, but it can get pretty pricey. I mean, that stuff's not cheap. Algicide and the chlorine and the shock and cleaning the filter, and it's very time consuming.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I don't have one.
Yeah.
Is my wife wanted one, and I'm like, listen, if you take care of it,
Right.
and she's like, well, can I hire a pool boy? And I'm like, no, that's not part of the stipulation.
You can hire a pool girl.
Right. That is a fair. That's a compromise. You see how that works?
You can get a pool, but I get to hire the pool girl.
Yeah.
I get to hire.
That's right. That's right.
So, yeah, no, it's just that's how busy it's been. I got a buddy that I'm doing I'm helping him out with his boat, but he retired last year.
Yeah.
And I went to his boat, and I'm like, Pete, your boat looks like shit, dude. What are you doing, man? Brand new canvas on it. He finally calls me back. He's like, Eric, it's like I'm busier now than I ever was, and I retired last year.
I heard that from a lot of people, and then when I retired, it is the God's honest truth. You don't know how you ever had time to work.
That's exactly what he said. He's like, I don't know how I had time to do this before.
Yeah.
But it's kind of wild how that worked.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I mean, there's so many things you put off because you work every day, and you just don't. And then you start doing those things, which lead to other things, and friends are like, "Hey, I know you got a few seconds here, a few seconds there. Can you give me a hand?"
That
You don't
could
tell
be
anybody
it.
no, and
Right.
next thing you know, every single minute of your day is busy. So.
Right.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yep.
Well, I'm glad you took some time to come see us.
Oh, it's been a good day. I actually had my retirees picnic at work today, so that was fun. Went up and saw a bunch of guys. that have
Oh,
been
nice.
Retiring over the last literally probably 30 years.
Wow.
A bunch of old guys that had retired before. I can't call them old guys anymore. I'm getting right up there. So, but a bunch of guys that had retired before I even got hired are still coming to this picnic.
Wow.
And then I show up, and all these new kids that were hired after me are all there helping out, and I'm like, oh, never saw you before. Can you tell me your name?
Pretty wild, huh?
Yeah, and they all seem like good kids, so that's a good thing.
I would think that 99% of the people that go into firefighting or some kind of first responder type of job is a good person. I like to think that.
You got to put a lot aside to sign
Right.
up with that.
I mean, to a certain, I think, like any job, you can't make a blanket statement, but yeah, I
Right.
mean, these are all guys that have a certain mentality.
Sure.
They're all go-getters. They're all
Yeah.
looking to put themselves, forward and challenge themselves on a regular basis, because that's what the job is. I mean, the job isn't just showing up and working 9 to 5. I mean, it's
Right. Right.
any
Right.
given second, it's all out. So you got to have a mentality to be able to handle that and work with it. So,
Yeah, and then the other part of it is you got to go off. You talk about competency, consistency, character. These guys, you're putting your life in their hands.
Yeah.
If you've got a guy that's spotting you or working with you, and you can't trust him with your life,
right.
so there's a camaraderie there that.
And it starts in the firehouse. It starts
Right,
well before you
exactly.
get out into a fire ground. You meet these guys, you talk to them, and before long, doesn't matter how new they are, you've explored multiple parts of their lives
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
how they got to be who they are, kind of thing, and what's going on with them now, and you know them very quickly. You develop a bond with them very quickly. It's not just about
So I would say the same when let's say these younger guys that are full-time guys and they see these retirees come in. I'm sure that you guys can bond very quickly because they probably realize,
Well, yeah, I mean, all the guys were there today were really good. I talked to a few of them for a while, and you tease them, you tell them some old war stories, and and basically you just wish them good luck and say, set your path and stick to it.
Yeah.
So
Very cool. Interestingly enough, not this weekend, but the following weekend, my niece is a firefighter up in Biddeford,
okay,
Maine. She's going to be coming down here for a visit, and I asked her if she'd like to sit down and speak with us on our podcast for
that'd be
another
cool.
This is America segment.
yeah,
She's, oh, geez, Caitlin, I'm not even sure how old you are, 20, 25 maybe?
yeah.
She's single.
No, she's not single. She is,
She's single.
she's not married. She's coming with a guy that she's living with, so I would say
Somewhat serious about.
he's actually he's a police officer, and he's also a veteran. I believe he was in the Army. So
When did I thought she was single just this last holiday, no? Or they've been together for a while now?
you know what? These are good questions.
He's a cop. She probably kept him a secret for a while.
Right, yeah, it's like the firefighters and the police department, and I don't know. Maybe they played softball together. Who knows? But yeah, so I don't know how long they've been together. It's been a while now, but so we'll sit down and speak with her. But she had a hard time. Not a hard time. I'm going to say she had a hard time because the physical. they didn't give her.
They don't give any break.
They don't give
And
her
they
a break
shouldn't.
because she's a female.
Right.
They're like, you've got to
Meet the requirement.
right.
And that's, I mean, for the most part, most in the fire service are on board with that. There's some bigger, more liberal cities that believe in changing the test.
yeah.
But for the most part, the fire service as a whole, the IAFF, they all have come to the one standard.
Yep.
You know, you do the standard. I mean, there's little guys who can't pass the test.
Right.
You know,
Right.
there's some really big guys who can't pass the
Right.
test. So it's not a gender thing. It's a work performance thing.
Correct.
You
know,
got to be able to
Otherwise,
pull
you're
your
putting
weight.
everybody at risk.
Right. It's just that simple.
Yeah.
You can either do the job or you can't. We don't care, you know, what's swinging between your legs or not, or whatever else. It's
Yeah.
just here's the things that need to be done. You can do them, great. If you can't, no harm. You just couldn't.
I mean, if there's, you have to have respect for that. I mean, that's the way everything should be, right?
Yep.
You know, you hear.
Well, that's yeah.
I don't want to
Standards
get
are
into this big
standards.
political thing, but this whole
It's not
DEI
political,
thing,
though.
you know, it shouldn't matter. The standard is the standard. Either you meet the requirements of the standard, the minimum requirements, or you don't.
Yeah.
If
There's
you
no
don't meet
sliding
the
scale
standard,
based on
exactly.
feelings, there shouldn't be anyhow.
Right.
And that's
no
just-
different than why I'm not a major league baseball player. Look, we
Right.
don't got any 5'8" guys that got hazel eyes, and
I tried to play basketball.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys can see me on camera. I'm 230 pounds. I'm 5'5".
and they don't got anybody in the league that's meeting those same standards.
Right.
That's discrimination.
It is. I should be a basketball player in the NBA.
There you go.
I don't know why I'm not.
I could be a professional bench warmer there,
yeah,
especially for the salaries. I'll do half the salary.
exactly.
Make it easy on you.
Yeah, I could do that too.
I think we should try out for the swimsuit model on Sport Illustrated and see what they say.
Oh, we should do our own calendar. The three of us. That gives us
that'll-
four months each. You
that'll
got four
make a
different speedos. Doug just says Pete Hegseth is trying to bring these standards back to the military.
He's been working on it, so seems to be doing pretty good so far. I mean,
Yeah.
they, you know, there's a lot of backlash about kicking the transgenders out, but I mean, I just look at that as any other mental health issue that they ban
Correct.
people for.
Yeah.
I mean,
Correct.
that group of people is known to have a serious issue with both suicidal
Emotion.
and homicidal issues.
Emotions,
You know,
psychiatric.
and we take other groups of people that fall into a mental health issue and we say, sorry, but you can't be in the military. Why are they any different? You know,
Yeah.
we're not segmenting anybody out. They just happen to fall into a group of people that we don't
Right.
want in our military service.
And the other side of the, you know, the physical.
Well, think about what you
aspect
do
of
to
it.
the other aspect, and the other people that are around you. You put,
Right.
you know, 5,000 guys or males and females on an aircraft carrier, right? That's roughly about what they're carrying. And you have the women's section, and you have the men's quarters, right? Women's quarters, men's quarters. What do you do with these people? And if you got straight guys in there that they don't know and they don't want to feel uncomfortable, so you can't separate that out because of someone chooses. That's
Right.
what this is. It is a choice to go this route. That's
Right.
your choice. Okay, that's your choice.
Yep.
But to what you're saying, and I think what you're saying about the rules is the rules don't get bent. Just
Correct.
because
There's
you're-
certain things, choices have consequences, right? It goes with
100%.
any choice. You know, it doesn't make me a bigot. It doesn't make me a racist. It doesn't make me anything because standards are standards.
Yes.
And
And when it comes to having a military, we want to have the best military on the globe.
Right.
It's that simple. And
I like
anything
to
that,
think so,
that
yeah.
diminishes that is a
Yeah.
problem. You know, feelings have no place in any of those decisions. It's just
Right.
not, we don't care. They're not part of the decision-making process.
that's not the career path you need to choose if you're going to get, we used to
Right.
say, get butt hurt over that kind of bullshit.
No pun intended.
Yeah, no pun intended. But you know, I also do believe, you know, the military. I have no problems with males and females, you know, working in the military. There's women that can do the same jobs that men can do. There's
Well, I mean, it's been for years now. They've had women that have been able to do special forces operations.
And
you
if these
as long
women
as they
meet the
pass test,
standards,
and that's what it is.
100%.
They didn't lower those standards. They just
Right.
said, "Here's a standard. You want to? If you, you know, how long ago did they make that show with what's her name? The actress who played the GI Jane.
oh yeah, what's
Oh,
Yeah.
Demi Moore.
Demi
there.
Moore.
where
yeah.
she was trying to get into the SEALs.
Right.
Now that was fictitious, but at the time that was going on for real.
Right.
You know, and they had women trying out and accomplishing their task. Now, they weren't sure how to integrate them, but they were becoming SEALs. They weren't necessarily deployed
Right.
initially.
Here, can you
But-
give me a
I
repeat
don't,
of
are
this?
they?
Do you
I
need
don't,
a?
I don't think
Yeah,
that's even.
I'll take another one too if you have a moment.
Is that a thing? I didn't think that was a thing today. I know that they were trying, but it's like.
I thought I just read an article not too long about a girl
Special Forces?
who was deployed as special forces. Whatever you give me.
You understand
He's
that?
got those right there, the orange ones.
The Oktoberfest? Oh, these are.
Well, those are the ones you brought. You can have whatever you want.
I still have Oktoberfest?
Apparently,
No, it's in my fridge. I have Oktoberfest. Yeah, those are yours. Yeah, so that it just goes back to the same deal. There's so many different jobs related to the military that
Right.
if you meet the standards and the qualifications of that job, I don't care what you are. It doesn't matter. If you can meet the standards, then have at
So
it.
I'm going to break down. There was a psychological component, and it goes from all species of living things, right? That's you put women in theater. Men are more apt to want to defend them because that's just a programming thing. It's our DNA.
Protect.
but-
Yeah.
Huh?
To protect.
Right, but then you put a woman in there that might be compromised in a certain situation, or there could be a tension situation just with testosterone and what's the other? Whatever. So hormones. Look, these are human. You can't get around these things. But to me, I've thought about this from another perspective, right? So, and this doesn't make me a bigot. I mean, I'm talking about facts. There's women go through a monthly cycle,
Oh, you're a bigot.
and hormones,
Dude,
and their hormones go up, they go down, they go up, they go down. Do
you believe in science?
And you could ask, right? You could ask my wife. I mean,
Right. No, I
she's
know.
even come to the point where she's going through the change, right? And she's like, look, I can see why people would lock their wives up in a closet while they're going through the change. And, sometimes you feel like you're going out of your mind and these emotions. And even from coaching girls to boys, the girls hit a certain age at 13 years old. Everything's changing in them.
Right.
And it's a developmental thing. But now here's another resource that's got to be cared for, maintained, and hygienically when you're out in the field, and that starts happening. Your body's discharging fluids and bacteria, right? And so you got to account for this. And
This is going to be a discontinued show. I can tell you.
well, it's real. Am I? Well, I don't. I'm
No,
not
no.
wrong
You're
on it.
100%
No,
right.
no,
Yes.
it's absolutely.
But you're speaking specifically in facts, and so there's half the country that just won't understand what you're talking about.
And there's men are better at certain things and women are better at certain things. And I'm not throwing a woman in the kitchen. Look, if you wanna be out there in the field and or like your niece there, you wanna be a firefighter, great. Pass the test, great.
Yep.
And I don't disagree with that. If you can meet the requirement, not that the requirements be lowered to meet your standards,
Right.
then by all means have at it.
I mean, I look at take the Israeli army. They've had
yeah.
women special forces in their military
Yes.
for decades.
And
Yep.
they're badasses.
Oh yeah, and they are. I wouldn't want to mess with them. I
No.
wouldn't want to run against an angry one in a dark alley for sure. 'Cause
No,
I'm not coming out.
Yeah, they're gonna put a knife in your neck.
Yeah.
Right. And
So I think the standard has already been proven that if you meet the standard, you can be fine at that job. 'Cause
Correct.
they are, and
Yeah,
they have a
100%.
different, I think, mentality than American women because they technically live in fear their entire lives
Yeah.
of what can happen to them.
right.
When you're in the Israeli military, every day you wonder when's the next attack. That's their position.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're not. I mean, we're not in that position necessarily in America. I mean, I think to a certain extent we probably should be.
We should be.
maybe a little more tempered. But I mean,
If that's the case, then you'd have to bring that standard across the board, and that's where I think our military does distinguish itself compared to something like the Israeli military. But the Israeli military is also you can call them nationalists. They believe in their
Right.
nation.
Yes.
Whereas, and you have to join
Well,
the military.
And they have to be like that because
Right.
look at the size of these
Yeah,
countries,
it's
right?
a small pool they have to draw from, and yes,
You have to protect yourself, and you need every person in that country to be on board with the security of your nation. Because if you're not, you're going to get overrun in a second.
Oh, I have no issues with that. I
You know,
agree.
we just talked about. I just saw an article. Someone was telling me there was another. There was not another, but there was a shooting at a high school in Austria. So I had to. I knew this before, but I had forgotten it. And I says, "Well, that's weird. Don't they have very strict gun control laws over there, and nobody has them and everything else?" And in reality, Austrians they have the highest
Go ahead.
gun ownership.
gun
Not
ownership out of the
possession,
world.
actually.
Yeah, per
'Cause
capita.
I believe they actually provide a military weapon to each household.
Right.
And it
Yeah.
still belongs to the military, but they possess that in their home.
They're required by law to have it.
Yeah.
Are the Swiss the same way?
I believe the Swiss are as well. Yeah.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought was. I didn't realize the Austrians were, but that's right. Yeah, something seems. to
Throw
say
another
that.
shrimp on the bobby.
I could be off a little bit, but that's the wrong
Samsonite. Dumb and
Because
dumber.
Austria sounds like Australia. Duh.
It just came out of left field.
You
I
never
wasn't
see that
tracking
on
it. I'm like,
Dumb and
where did-
Dumber?
Where did he just come up with
Oh,
that?
Austria. Throw another shrimp on the bobby. Yeah, whatever. Lloyd.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was. But so there's a nation, a small nation, that their citizens are required to have firearms. So, people talk about the United States and stricter gun laws and everything else, and if we saw what happened when populations are disarmed,
Right.
Correct.
they became overran.
And it's not a single instance; it's numerous instances
Right.
throughout history.
Right.
Every time
Right.
a country did that, they
Right.
lost their rights.
Correct.
Right.
Citizens lose their rights.
So this guy, I was commenting on Facebook. Sometimes I like to get on there, and I know you're the same way. You like to just kind of stir the pot.
Stick the spoon in the pot and
So,
give it
so
a
do
big
you.
swig.
I've seen some of Kevin Brown's posts, which are pretty funny. But so this guy from Great Britain, it was in regards to weapons in America, and he's like, "Well, here in Great Britain, since like 1800, we haven't had any guns." And I go, "Well, you had them before, and from 1776." I said it was people with guns that beat the shit out of you guys, and now you don't have them. I go, "How do you think that we got our independence?" I go,
Right.
it was with guns. Now you're a disarmed society.
It's even worse than that. I mean, they're not allowed to have knives anymore. Pretty soon, they're going to have their food delivered pre-chewed for them.
Right.
Because they're so afraid of everything of anyone that they're sacrificing any portion of their individuality and their civil liberties anytime something bad happens. They're like, "Oh, please take care of us, government.
Right.
We'll wait around for the 20 minutes for your cop to show up to save us."
Yeah.
That's,
that works.
That's tyranny.
Right.
I mean, I don't understand why people don't understand that. And they try comparing, here's one in recent relative to the what's going on right now in LA. I've been hearing a lot of this banter about, Mexico owned this land and blah, 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 and
Yeah. and they sold it.
colonizers took it.
And then
Well, that's
they
not
sold it to
true.
us, yes. They sold it in the Gadsden purchase.
Correct, for $15 million, I believe. And there was actually 3 purchases that were made all the way out to Arizona.
Well, wasn't that Spanish? Wasn't that owned by Spain before?
I know Russia was over there in California.
Yeah, Russia was in the Northwest. They actually kind of came down into like the Washington area.
Yes.
They were trying to push their borders.
Seems
further
like they're
forward.
back again, but I mean,
Yeah.
Right.
But
And so you hear that, but then people were spouting that off. They're not talking about facts. That was actually purchased.
most of the verbiage that's going on are not facts. They're people's misunderstanding of the actual truth,
right.
or they just don't have any truth at all.
Right. Or they say it's racist. I'm like, listen, it's not racist. You had Russians, Indians,
You had
Chinese,
The Dutch, the
Dutch.
Spanish, the French.
Regardless
all
of
coming
all that,
in illegally.
Right.
Right. And so it has nothing to do with race and everything to do with the law. And you can't just cherry pick out of that. That is what it is. And you either agree with the law or you don't.
So some people they're debating the nuance between illegal entry and illegal presence. Most of them don't even know the term illegal presence. So illegal entry, anybody, even a citizen, can be charged with illegal entry. you come back someplace and you skip
you don't go
customs
through
or
the
you
border,
don't go
yeah.
through the right process,
The border.
you can be charged with illegal entry. You can go to jail. Illegal presence is specifically what our government is going after these people for. It is not a criminal charge. It is resolved through deportation. Simple. It's all
Right.
that. So all these people whining about, oh, they're not getting their due process. It's a civil process. There's no due process available for it. Due process is for criminal charges.
The
Yeah.
law, as it's written, is if you're caught here, you're deported.
That's an interesting that word due process. But it's funny, not funny. It's ridiculous how they skip over the fact that the American people weren't given their due process by having an agency, an entity, or whatever vet the individuals that are coming here.
Right.
Right. So, the article, there was one here in Connecticut. It was this week. I think 4 guys were working at a car wash, and
I saw that.
they were picked up, and they've been here for 8 years.
Not a problem.
8 years they've been here. So you're meaning to tell me within 8 years
You got your
can't-
time in, you get to go now. So
Right.
simple.
Yeah, congratulations. You were here 7 years and
And
11
you had
months too
all
long.
this time to get that straightened out.
Right, you didn't do it.
You didn't do it.
Yeah.
Because you took it for granted and you just waved off on the law. Well, people, and then the complaint after that is, well, it's expensive, it's lawyers, it's this and that. And I said, well, you go to a college, get a college degree, and that's expensive. People do it. You
You got to pay for your car registration. I want to drive my car around without insurance, and I don't want to pay for registration.
A lot
But
of
if
them
I
don't do
get
that.
caught,
right. That's not an excuse.
what
It's a-
happens?
right.
Am I breaking the law?
Exactly.
Do I have a fine to pay? Do I face
Exactly.
punishment? Yes, I do. I'm breaking the laws of this country. Why is that any different than what's happening? It's not.
And
It's not.
The funny thing is we're not actually charging them with a crime. If we charge them with a crime, there is a reasonable argument that could made they should have some due process.
Now they have now you get a trial by jury
because
blah, blah,
there is a penalty associated with your action,
blah. Right.
which means that you have to go through the process of determining if you're guilty or not.
So here's something that bugs me about the Republican Party. They have the opportunity, the wherewithal, and the number of votes to change that and make that legitimate. You come here illegally, you're in this country, you get deported, make it a law. Or you come through
Immediate
legally.
deportation. And by immediate, if they catch you on this side, drive you around, drop you off on the other side.
And by the way, just because you go through the legal process doesn't mean you're approved.
Right. So, I mean, it's simple. I mean, we're a country. We want to make our country better with the people that we bring into it. We also want those people to assimilate into Americans, not assimilate into
Correct.
former,
Correct.
people that lived in another country and now want to make that country ours.
Right.
We don't want that.
Right. Me,
If you're, and as far as I'm concerned, if you can't even follow the way to enter our country, you're ignoring that. You're ignoring the process to make sure that you want to be here and want to be an American.
right.
You're just here to be a problem. I'm sorry. If I hurt people's feelings, too bad.
Or to take something, right, to be a problem to somebody, something, or burden the system
And,
somewhere.
and if they're coming for the benefits, guess what? All you're doing is coming to steal from Americans.
Correct.
That's what that is.
Correct.
They're not owed to you. You did nothing to earn them. You're coming here and you're stealing from taxpayers.
Right.
Right.
It's so bye.
And I have a problem with that.
do too.
It's horrible that we can't even get to the just a simple sense of look.
And it's
there's
not
right.
an individual thing about who's coming or what they look like because I
Nope,
don't care.
not at all.
Yeah. Put the door.
I don't
up.
care either, as long as
you
you-
come through the door. You're welcome. I'll shake
Everybody.
your hand and bring you in.
This is the melting
You
pot.
climb over the fence, and I think you need to be thrown back over to the other side.
Right.
It's that simple. We have a process.
I dare you to try to get into Canada or
Right.
try to get into Mexico and not
stay there
go
and then
through,
demand shit.
yeah, and then see what happens to you.
Burn the Mexican flag, fly the American flag. Oh, look at this
Yeah,
guy
yeah.
with his stern.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to my house in Mexico. I'm gonna put an American flag up hanging off my front door.
I'm gonna burn the Mexican
Yeah,
one on
I'm
the
gonna
back.
stomp all over the Mexican
And you're
flag.
never going to be seen from again until they find your
Correct.
burning
Yeah,
pile of bones in
Yeah, you're in a
desert
ditch
somewhere.
Yeah, I know it's.
Ass backward. It's
It
not
is
even ass
crazy.
backward. It's just it's ridiculous at this
But
point.
you know what? I do blame the politicians because
Oh, I don't.
these
I don't
elected
disagree.
officials are supposed to be the voice of the people, and we can talk about why these politicians are still in power and why they're making careers of it. They don't give a shit about you
No.
or me. They're there for a job, just like I go to work every day to provide a living for my family, for a betterment of my life. They're in the position for the same reason.
I think some of them do it for purposes of making a difference. but then it
friend
becomes
Doug.
stagnant over time.
Yeah.
Which is why term limits, I think, should be a standard set and established. Which again is another aggravation.
I'm a fan
point.
of one term.
Yeah.
6 years. You get a 6-year term. Every 2 years, we reduce. We change over half of it.
Just roll
I mean,
it.
a third of it.
Yeah, just keep it
So it's
rolling.
continuously rolling. And guess what? You don't have to make deals with the big corporations to get your
Correct.
office. Guess what?
Right.
It would limit that.
You're going to be here one try. You
possibility.
get to make your mark or leave.
And then
That's it.
that eliminates big government. You know,
Correct.
everybody says they don't want Big Brother getting their hands involved in everything.
It cuts the dirty out that he's talking
Right.
about.
Well, people want to know how we got to the point where basically citizens no longer have a voice in their government. And it actually started, in my opinion anyhow, when we started corporate taxation. When we started taxing businesses for doing
Right.
business in our country, the first thing that happened is that money got all passed down to consumers. It's not like the companies are paying that tax.
Right. The
people are paying
cost. The
taxes.
cost.
right.
Yeah.
But what that was is it gave companies, corporations, the foothold to claim that I'm paying taxes. That makes me a citizen. That means I deserve representation.
Yeah.
And
Well, they're
and
called
now they have-
lobbyists,
and
right?
now they have all the money.
Right.
So guess what?
You're right. You're right. You can't compete with that.
No,
They're
the
getting
average
their way,
citizen, they
right.
don't. I can't just walk into to Washington and say, "Hey, I want to see my senator today."
Right.
And you should be able to.
Chances are our senator's not there anyhow. He's a useless POS. But
Oh no, he's probably in Vietnam.
one of them is anyhow.
So Doug had a comment on here. It says his brother's been married to a Mexican national for 4 years, and he cannot get her here legally because of the system is overrun by illegals.
Okay, there's a point. You're burdening the system.
So yeah, what?
Well, I don't understand that, Doug. We watch a show. It's called 90 Day Fiance. Have you ever seen this?
No.
My wife is into reality shows.
It's called what?
It's interesting from the perspective of how these people that are they get them into the country. They got to get married within 90 days, and or they don't get their citizen approve. They don't get their
visa.
application
Yeah,
right.
it's,
So
visitor visa. I forget.
these people. The likelihood of meeting someone and getting married within 90 days and someone that you've talked to over the internet, let's say for the past 5 years,
Wait,
even,
what do they look
just,
like?
just over the internet. Oh,
I'm very shallow.
Yeah, you got a chance. You don't got a chance.
So
Sorry, Rosie, you're staying in Ireland.
yes. Oh, by the way, you've seen what she's been. Apparently, she doesn't like it over there. From
Well,
what I guess.
that's because they hate her.
Oh, so you
She doesn't
have
like
seen
it
it?
anymore there.
You know the show then?
No, I'm just making a comment.
But you see this show and these what I'm finding back to Doug saying that. I mean, apply for 90 Day Fiance. Maybe she'll get some visibility, and then you'll get the court of public opinion behind you, or maybe there'll be some resources there that would be tapped into. I don't know. I just, to your point, that the system's being overburdened because so many other people are breaking the law that those that are
Right.
trying to do it the right way
can't.
They can't.
That's the
Can't.
That's the natural status of our country right now.
Yeah.
The people that are trying to do it the right way, no matter what it is, seem to be pushed aside for the people that aren't.
Correct.
The people that are trying to skirt the system or even outright, disagree with it or
Yeah. It just seems
So-
that, what's that old adage? The squeaky wheel gets the grease. You
well,
know,
that's
it's-
that's how we operate today.
I think it's beyond squeaky wheel.
Oh, I
think
agree with you.
The corporations, the palm greasing, and the things of that nature that are occurring inside of our government is just outrageous. But I vote on the conservative side. I have my fair share of issues with the Mitch McConnells of the world.
Yeah, I don't
Lindsey
think-
Graham.
I don't-
I
I don't think you can pick a single side anymore and say I 100% agree with this.
no,
right.
definitely
It's
not.
just where you're leaning
And
on.
I actually have a friend of mine who tends to come across to me a lot as a Democrat. But we were talking today. He was one of the guys I worked with. And he's like, at my core, he goes, I'm a libertarian. He goes, I believe in
I am as well.
the government being as small as possible. I said, I agree with you.
I
Right.
agree.
I said, listen, if we could shrink our government back to one representative for every state, I'd be all about that.
Yeah.
Let's can, most of Washington. Get rid of, we don't need the ATF for anything. As far as I'm concerned, all they do is find ways to screw citizens.
Right.
100%. 100%.
The IRS, the ATF,
Yeah,
the
let's go to a national sales tax. We don't need the IRS. Maybe
I
a
agree
few.
with the
You'll
national
need-
sales tax,
You'll need
too.
a few because they'll have to keep track of the taxes coming in through
Sure.
the sources they'll come in.
But you see why? You said simple things that make simple sense, and that is the problem.
Well-
they keep it convoluted.
yeah, exactly.
and-
It's the red tape.
let me put it this way in little computer terms. So if you compare Windows to Apple software and then to Linux, there's three different types of software there. Windows has predominantly the most malware made for it, then Apple, and then Linux. And the reason is because Windows has the most code of any operating system there is.
Okay.
Apple, I think, is about a third. I think it's up to now about a third of the code that Windows uses. And I don't know. I'm just kind of pulling that out of my ass a little bit. I know it's significantly
Yeah, I don't know
less than
anything.
Windows. And Linux is smaller. Well, Linux has generally been about half the code of Apple software. The reason that is because it's easy to hide shit when it's so big that nobody knows where to look. There's millions of lines of code in Windows. You know?
Right.
So if you have, let's say you have 300 software designers creating the software, and they all design all these lines of code and they make it all work together, and it looks great and it's wonderful. But now there's all these people out there saying there's so much code, we know that there's problems in there that we can exploit.
Well, I
And
agree
it's not
with that.
300 software designers; it's 3 million software designers from all over the globe trying to
get
crack
in.
that software.
Right.
And when they look at the opportunities, they say, "Well, Windows is the most opportunity because it has the most code." Our government's no different. The bigger we keep it, the bigger it is to obfuscate stuff and to hide stuff in
100%.
plain sight in front of people and saying, "Look at all the things we're doing with your money." And you go, "Where? What are you doing?" He goes, "No, just look." You know,
Yeah.
we put a fancy name on it. You know, we're giving aid to foreign countries.
And in the meantime,
Why you doing that? You
one
know?
department, there's 2,000 government employees getting kickbacks and getting bonuses and getting free travel and vacations for their families.
I
And
forget what department was it. 76 is 96. I don't remember million or billion, but in the so I think it was a million. But in the 76 days between Trump was actually elected and he took over office from Biden, one department spent millions of dollars. I think it was actually like $93 million
Yeah.
that they blew without any
No accountability.
no accountability.
Right.
They were giving out loans to people that had not done business plans. They were just blowing money to get it out of the office before Trump took over. Because it's gone now and we can't get it back. We can't stop that money.
right.
It's already spent. And that's what their goal was. Is they in their minds were like, we're fucking Trump. But in reality, all they're doing is we're fucking the American people.
Correct.
Well, it's off the, but yeah, the government they're not a revenue generating business. I don't know what the U.S.
Right, and they
government
shouldn't
makes
be.
and sells on the,
Well,
the world
technically, right
market.
now, we might be with tariffs a little bit. What did he make, $22 billion or something like that with tariffs? Over
And his tariff plan is okay. It was a little bit of a struggle for what I mean. He's only been in office for 6 months, legitimately.
Yeah.
So okay, 2 months of struggle, and now they've got it established in there that I think the tariff rate in China.
10%.
Look this on. No,
Ours is 55.
It
They're
was-
paying 55. The one they just made, from what I read the other day, was we now pay 10% on the stuff that's going to China.
that is true.
And China now pays 55% on this, or the 55%. China's paying 55% to us for tariffs, and we're paying 10% to them.
And it was under Biden 35%.
Right.
And then the trade war happened, and it shot up to like 180 something percent, right?
Well,
and then now it's
what-
back down. So
What it was is they fired shots across each other's bow to
Right.
make sure
Right.
that each one would come to the table and
Right.
talk. And when they did, they sat and had a reasonable discussion and came out with a reasonable thing. America has been paying excessive tariffs not just to China, not just to Mexico, not just to Canada, to every country on the
Everybody.
globe since World War II. Because when they were inserted in World War II, the process was that America's doing really well and we're going to help all of you recover by paying you little bits in tariffs. That was the whole point of the tariff system.
What was it you that was talking about the Japanese? We were paying Japan after the big one was dropped.
Well, yeah. I mean, I know we did that for years. I don't know that we specifically
Well,
spoke about that, but
it
we actually we paid like reparations to them. It wasn't.
yeah,
just,
and I
it
think
wasn't just tariffs.
the term went well past what the agreement was. I mean,
yeah.
like 20, 30 years,
Probably,
maybe
yeah.
something like that. That they've been paying Japan this ridiculous amount of, I guess, reparations, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Why did we continue paying that? Why wouldn't we?
because we dropped a real big bomb on them. I guess. I mean,
Well,
it was unprecedented at the time.
you
I mean, and
you don't kamikaze the shit out of our fucking
Well,
naval base.
yeah.
You know, here's
I
another.
kind of feel the same way. If you're gonna flick the switch, the light's gonna turn on at some point.
Let's
You know.
fuck around and find out.
Exactly.
Here's another thing with Japan, and not to bash Honda. I mean, Honda obviously makes a great product, but when Honda first came here, and I'm going back to the 70s,
Yeah.
there was a junk product. So when people talk about how great Honda is, it's like they've forgotten how they've gotten there, and they got there on the American dollar and the American
I don't know if I
consumer.
can beat them up that bad though. My first car was a '78 Honda Civic.
Oh, sweet.
2-speed
The
automatic.
hatchback?
Oh yeah.
Oh, nice.
They were
That car-
60,000-mile cars.
That
back
car endured a lot. It was over 100,000 when I finally blew it up.
then. Yeah,
No,
but
no,
that was
Hondas are
the
running
standard.
300,000 miles. No problem
Yeah.
nowadays.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
But let's not forget, it was the American consumer that picked them up, not picked them up, helped them pick up the bootstraps or whatever.
Yeah, it boosted them up.
Yeah,
right?
so look what happened back then. We had the fuel whatever you wanna
Crisis?
call it.
Gas
yeah,
shortage?
gas crisis,
Yeah.
gas shortage. I
Of
mean,
70.
you could go to the gas station on this day if you had an even plate and an off.
Yeah.
You know,
So
and
now
the,
you need
and the
fuel
Honda Civic
efficiency.
suddenly showed up and was getting 30 miles to the gallon when the average American car was getting 10 or 12.
Right.
You know, and they're like, "Holy crap!" So, I mean, they jumped into that market, taking advantage of the scenario that was already existing here.
Oh, no doubt. Listen, it's a great product. It's a great product today. It's just, but to your point about the tariffs, so it's helping Japan build its economy.
Right.
It's China built its economy. All built its economy on
Off the
the
mon-
American dollar,
Right, the money
because
we're
the
paying 'em.
America is the consumer.
We're the biggest consumers.
And I've said this from the beginning. You know, I think that, you know, you talk about the too big to fail scenario. I think it happens on both China, Japan, and America, realistically, and soon to be Pakistan in my mind. But
India.
you've got to. This is the largest consumer. You can't have the production without the consumption,
right.
right? Otherwise, you end up with overproduction and you go dead because you can't afford to
Well,
sell
it's
it.
the supply and demand aspect
Right.
of things, right?
Did you guys notice what I was reading today, and I assume it's accurate, but at the end of May, DeSantis signed a law making gold a tradable currency in Florida, gold and silver. So you can literally use it as a legal tender in the state of Florida now for silver and gold coins.
It always has been. It's even in the Constitution, Article 10.
But they had made it illegal to do that for a while. I don't remember exactly where.
Really?
But yeah, the United States had moved away from that, and that's what his point was. It says it's constitutional that gold and silver are supposed to be.
It's
a
the
legal
only
tender. Right.
right.
And but in 1941, I think they said one of the presidents made it. Oh, maybe I'm getting my dates wrong. I think it might have been before that.
Hey, Kevin, you got a fan watching.
Do I have a fan watching? How is it? Oh, I don't know that she's next. She's probably just checking up on me and make sure I'm
Just
not being
making
an
sure you're
idiot.
here.
She'll call me and say, "Stop being an asshole."
Well, Doug, we'll get to your comment here, but you are correct. Go ahead.
So I don't remember when it happened, but yeah, it was made illegal to even own gold for a little while. You couldn't actually own
Right, the
gold.
government could seize it, like if you had it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those things. If you were going to diversify your portfolio and invest in something for security, there's only the government is, as they've shown in the past, will take it from you. So, you know, it's almost scary to buy it.
I actually
in some
almost
senses.
well, they can't do that anymore. They did make that illegal.
Well,
You're
yeah.
allowed to possess gold now.
Well, no, right. But during the shortage, right? That
Right,
was,
right.
You were also allowed to protect yourself from HIPAA violations until they started enacting all the COVID crap, right?
Yeah.
And it was only those that stood up for their rights that prevailed in it all, realistically.
Yeah, every law and HIPAA violation went out the window.
Right.
When they're
Are you
asking-
vaccinated or
yeah.
not? That's a HIPAA violation.
I don't know. Do you have?
No.
Do you have an STD? You know.
Yeah.
Let's talk about more shit that's none of your damn
What's
business.
that growth on your face? Here's a quarter. Go downstairs and have a rat.
Rat.
gnawed
Now
up for
that.
you.
It's just amazing that we have people that don't see this as a problem.
Well, it's the my body, my choice people that are saying everybody should get the vaccination.
There
Like,
you go.
Okay.
Now it's not my
Today,
body, my
yeah.
choice.
It's not even. It's actually beyond that. It's a simple mindset of complacency. People
Yeah.
don't want their convenience to change. It's that
Right.
simple. I mean, if you look back to when we went to war with Britain, it was over a 4% tax on tea.
Correct.
Look at where we are now taxed and what they're doing with our civil rights and how they're trying to steal things. They're trying to make citizens conform to the government's will. And nobody, yes, there's banter.
There is-
We can have a civil war, we can have this. But in reality,
Nobody's doing
nobody's going to start a civil war because they want to drive to work on Monday, pick up their paycheck on Friday, and over the weekend
Yeah.
want to have burgers and beers.
Well,
And pay
wait a minute,
55%
I got to correct
taxes.
him there. He said nobody's going to start a civil war.
Yes, you're
somebody-
right.
Somebody's-
Nobody on this side.
Right.
Right.
Somebody's going to.
Yes.
Well, they're trying already. If you look
And
at
it's
what's going
those
on.
that aren't
Absolutely.
going to work. It's those that aren't going to pay aren't paying their
But
taxes.
I'll tell you what
But I think a big
happens.
number of them is part of those 10 million, military-aged males that we had let unvetted into our country.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
it's in their best interest to get us to start a civil war.
Oh,
Right.
correct.
Because
Right.
then they can make us their country.
But the problem is, there's a lot of silent people that when that first, we'll call it the
Yes.
shot heard around the world. When that happens,
The shot heard around the world will be muffled by the second shot heard around the world.
correct.
If that happens, stick the fork in. The only thing that's left is the crying.
Right.
It's all over.
Right.
You know, and
It'll
now
be total
now-
chaos.
right. You've broken up
But
the
the problem
piece
with
in it.
that is that there's no easy recovery from that.
No.
Oh, no
Now,
doubt.
once you get to that point, I mean, yes, I think at some point freedom and our way of life will demand it if they keep going in the way they're going.
Yeah.
I don't think there'll be a solution.
Personally, I don't think we're far off. When I look at history
I
and
think
the
yes, I think
relationship.
we're running a razor blade right now.
Oh, very. I agree.
100%.
You
I
know,
agree.
and I think like the actions of people out in Los Angeles are a perfect example of that.
Yep.
You know, these are people that basically said laws do not apply to us.
Correct.
Yes, we have the right to go have
And we are Mexico,
free
we are
speech.
here.
Yeah,
Right.
we can have free speech. Okay, that's great. But at some point, your free speech breaches the decorum of free speech and becomes militant action. When you're, one, not a citizen of this country, two, waving the flag of another country, and three, engaging our civil forces in violent action,
Yeah.
you are now a militant combatant in our country. You're no longer just a person exercising a First Amendment
Is,
right.
Correct.
Is Molotov cocktails at police officers,
Even
and cop
firecrackers,
cars,
dude. Come on.
firecrackers, rocks,
Bricks, yeah.
spitting.
Did you see the video where the guy threw a brick off and it went right through the windshield of the car?
Oh, they
If-
threw a
if
bunch
it had
of
gone
somebody.
through the driver's side, it would have
Kill
killed
him.
the guy.
Yeah.
And you haven't heard one person that ranted and raved about January 6th, J6, J6, J6. Not one of those people that said those things about J6 are saying a peep now.
No.
Here's what so people have been arguing about, people say, these people need all this. And they're like, what about the people from J6? I go, okay, let's take that. I will 100% welcome what happened to the people on J6 being done to these people right now. Take them off the street, make them disappear. Don't give them a lawyer.
Don't give right.
Don't give them
Take
anything.
away all their rights.
And let's just make them disappear.
Put 'em in
Because
jail.
that's what happened to them until
Yep.
they got around to
Correct.
dealing with them.
Right.
I said, and then let's keep going. Let's do what they did in January 6th. Let's take all the video that we have and let's hire somebody to make it sound more violent and more dangerous than it really was. And then
Right.
we'll charge them based on that.
Correct.
Because that's what happened on January 6th.
Yeah.
And these aren't just hypothetical conspiracy theories. These are things that they're actual facts. They have them as
There's
all this
evidence.
as evidence. Yes.
Right. Right.
The Democrats hired a producer out of California to come in and put sounds with video that had no sound. Like in my world, that's called tampering with evidence.
Yes.
Right.
The people that are
Yes.
complaining that Trump pardoned all these people, well, guess what? They never should have been charged. It's called fruit of the poisonous tree. When you act in an illegal way, which is tampering evidence, you cannot use any of that to charge a person with a crime.
Correct.
A guy could have a bloody knife in his hand at the scene of a murder, and if you broke into the house without a warrant and found him, guess what? It doesn't matter that he had all that shit when you found him. It all disappears unless somewhere down the road you can prove that you would have found it through some other.
We have
If the
laws.
glove don't fit, you,
You
must
must
acquit.
Right.
I mean, you don't have to agree with the laws, then have them changed. But the laws are the laws.
Right.
Those are the rules of play in this country. You follow the rules.
And the stupid part of it is with these people and their politicians that they support is all of those politicians promised that we're going to address these issues for you.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
But when they're elected, not one of them will do it because they know there's political fallout for taking that serious of a stance on any issue.
And
The
what
only
happens,
one that has is Donald Trump, and you
Right.
got to give that credit,
But-
whether you like him or hate him or don't.
what
That's he ran
happens to
on.
those politicians in D.C. that don't go along and follow the system?
Right.
They get ousted, right? And guess what happens? They don't get that fancy mansion. They don't get that paycheck.
Well,
they
there
don't
you
get
go.
the
I don't think
perks.
they get ousted.
Oh,
Look at A.
how many times did
Well, look at-
Nancy Pelosi tell whatever,
AOC?
fall in line
Right.
AOC, she told her that a
or
lot.
get out? That's exactly what I'm talking
And so
about.
she fell in line and got rich instead.
Yeah.
Look at the dude there, George Soros. Well, not Soros, but Santos. The Republican politician that came in and they found out he had lied about a bunch of shit.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah.
got to go, dude.
So they charged him, or they indicted him, right? Mm-hmm. And as soon as he was indicted, all of Congress said, all right, you're gone. Well, now we have this lady that attacked the ICE officer.
Yeah.
She's a congresswoman.
Yeah.
And she's just been indicted. Well, why is she still here?
Yeah.
You know?
agree.
See ya.
Same thing should be the same. The Democrats were the most vocal in getting rid of George Santos. Guess what? They should be playing back their words to him about this lady.
That is the cult aspect of it.
Right.
So it's not
What's good
about
for thee is not for me or
Democrat
whatever,
or
yeah.
Republican. It's about what is right and what is wrong and
Exactly.
being consistent and having the character to be able to call out the competency of your job and stand for what the competencies within you.
I don't know. There's a lot of people competent to do the job there anymore.
Oh, I think it was even rare as we go through the founding fathers. There was some. Well, I can't say that those guys were as bad as what we're seeing, anywhere near as bad.
I
as
think
what
they
we're seeing.
bickered, and I think they had differences of opinion, and I
there's
think there was
always-
backdoor
right.
stuff going on.
Oh,
You know,
100%.
But then you looked at Robert Morris or Gouverneur Morris. The guy funded his entire income. I think it was Robert Morris. I mean,
Yeah,
was a wealthy guy and ended up in debtor's prison and broke after he supported the
He funded the
revolutionary
war.
right.
Yeah, he
And-
basically got out of his own personal finances.
And to
So-
me, that guy is just as much as important, but he was held to a standard.
But we did see, I mean, even from the beginning of this country, the corruption in government. I mean, look at Aaron
It's
Burr
human
and
nature.
Hamilton, and they're challenged each other
well,
to
yeah,
duels.
they're
And,
all human,
right.
and there's no way everybody's going to be perfect.
That's true.
But what they were better at is they were good orators and debaters with each other in terms of trying to find common ground to move forward.
And there was
the
compromise for
country.
sure. For the
think-
country.
I think
for
the one
the
thing that
country.
regardless of what side they fell on, they all believed that their common goal was to make the country a better place.
Right.
And it wasn't through tearing apart everything that had already been built. And that's where we're at now.
But the
We
problem
have one
is,
side that thinks I have to tear down everything to make what I want a better country.
250 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
they had an enemy. They
Right.
had a reason. Okay. It's the same principle that we're dealing with today, except people don't understand why we have the Constitution. That reason is still there.
Right.
We can get back to that very easily, just as not as easily, but as quickly as we got away from it. And people forget why the Constitution is in place, and people forget why people unified when the colonies decided to get their independence from Great Britain. The reason was because they didn't want to be controlled by a tyrannical government, which was Great Britain. Here we are today. Yes, it's not Great Britain, it's the United States of America.
Correct.
But we are dealing with a tyrannical, I'm not going to say everybody in the government's tyrannical, but we're dealing with a tyrannical
Mindset.
population and
Yeah.
mindset, okay? If we don't get away from that, there will be a tipping point.
Oh, of course there will.
It's
yeah.
And it's going to
inevitable.
be an us against them thing. And
Well, the big thing that I think our school systems predominantly have failed our children.
100%, there's
I
a reason
agree.
for
I
that.
agree.
And the way they fail them most definitely is by instilling them the fact that the Constitution does not limit citizens. It does not give citizens rights. The Constitution was written to keep the government in check and to tell the government what it is and is not allowed
Correct.
to do. That is the sole purpose of our Constitution.
Because the people that wrote the Constitution lived under that kind of tyrannical
exactly.
rule.
Yeah.
Right? So these are the rules that we don't ever want to have to fall under again.
You know, I love because my favorite one to argue is obviously the Second Amendment. 'Cause so
Right.
many people they're against it out of fear. I challenge them. I'm like, listen, why are you afraid of guns? And like, well, school shootings and this, that, and the other thing. I'm like, but that's done by people, not done by guns. Well, they use guns because guns are only made to kill people. No, guns are made to defend oneself. Guns
But you're
are
not
made
afraid
for
when a
lot of
police
reasons.
officer shows up with a 9mm strapped to his
Right.
hip, you know.
And I told a guy the other day, I was arguing with him online. I said, I would be more than willing to accept any gun law that applies equally to police officers.
Why am I not seeing
Because-
her live?
Because
Is it under pseudonym? Sorry. Go ahead, Kevin.
no, still there. Police officers receive their authority to carry weapons from the same place we do. It's called self-defense.
Right.
We don't give police officers guns so they can run out and shoot people.
Correct.
We give them guns so if they run into a dangerous scenario, they have the proper weapons to protect themselves.
It's the tools of the trade.
Why would we deny citizens that same opportunity when they're going to be there? Victims are 100% always there at the time of the crime.
Yeah, and they're
Cops aren't going to be
there.
there for another 10 minutes.
Correct.
You know,
Correct.
so why deny the initial person the ability to have the same opportunities of self-defense as a police officer?
Why
does?
is someone else's life more important than mine? Is someone's life, you know,
Right.
why is it different?
Because they're afraid of their neighbors.
Right.
That's what I've come down to, is that people who are against guns are simply afraid of their neighbors.
Well, you know,
I'd say go over and have a beer with them then.
yeah.
You know?
But
if he's got guns, maybe he'll take you shooting. And then you'd be like, holy shit, this is a lot of fun.
But you got to look at it the other way. All things being equal, what do you have to be afraid of?
Oh, for having a gun?
Yeah.
You don't have to be afraid to own a gun.
So
You have to be aware and intelligent enough to know that things aren't always going to be good.
right.
And I'm not saying that your neighbor's going to come over or some bad thing's going to happen down the street, but we live in a time when anything bad can happen at any time.
Any time, any
Because-
given day.
Anytime.
People are inherently bad.
Right.
Yes.
It's that simple. They want to believe that people are inherently good, and that's a pipe dream. We've proven
I
over
used
the
to
last
believe that.
6,000 years
Yeah.
that people aren't.
No.
People gravitate towards bad behavior when they're left to their own devices.
Right.
Yes.
Now, yes, we are taught our morals as we grow up, and hopefully they were taught well enough so that we behave in a certain manner amongst people. But that don't always take with some people.
Correct.
And our founders knew
You know?
exactly what you just said. They knew that, and they said that. Said exactly. Well, not exactly that, but might as well be exactly that. Maybe not in those words.
And so, and I firmly believe that the Second Amendment has two processes. Part of it is because, well, it's probably more than that even. But the first part is a well-regulated militia, being necessary to a free state. That's in there because they knew that without the civilians owning weapons, we would have lost the war to Britain.
100%.
without a
There
doubt.
is no way we would have ever won, and we would still be subjects of Britain at this time.
Right. We'd be living
So
under
that-
a king.
That first line is simply a recognition, almost a thank you to the people who weren't conscripted military people.
Right.
They were just the people that were fighting for their property,
The
and fighting for
farmers,
their,
anybody that was living in a house with a weapon.
But then I said, then it goes from there, and it says the right of the people
the right of the
to
people.
keep and bear arms. That is a whole second phrase.
Yes.
Right.
And that acknowledges that it's the people who have that right, not the
Correct.
government, not anybody else. And then the last part is a direct statement to government. Shall not be infringed. Basically what that means is you have no authority.
Right.
Now, basically, that's exactly what it means.
And
The government's not above it.
We've allowed our government to somehow throw the wool over people's eyes and let them believe that they have the right to say, you can't have this gun because it has too many bullets. You can't have this gun because it's the wrong color and looks the wrong
You
way.
got to go get fingerprinted, and you
Right.
have to have a piece of plastic. To
And now we
carry
have
around
we have
in
to
your
know
wallet.
of everybody that carries a weapon at any time.
Right.
The reason that exists is because every time there's been a tragedy, the government has jumped on it to seize more authority over people.
Yeah.
And most people are not aware enough of the situation to realize they're just simply getting fucked by their government every single time.
It's the boiling frog syndrome.
Yeah, they're just sitting there going, "Oh, that's so bad over there. We need to do something."
And it's us too. It's
Oh, yeah.
not just the people on the left. They may not understand it or may not want to give credence to what it's actually saying or its purpose, but we're all getting screwed by the stupidity in the government and you supporting it. Not you, but
I know
the
you.
opposite side.
I mean, I think the stupidity is basically blatant in the public today.
Oh, it's
and the
blatant.
government is very aware of the fact that it exists and exploits it
100%.
every opportunity they can.
right.
And yeah, the Republicans say, "Oh no, we're not playing that game. We're going to protect your rights." But
No, they
I mean, we've had 3 months already, and there's been numerous laws that supposedly
Correct.
the reciprocity law, from what I understand, has some terrible stuff in it. You can carry one gun, you can have one clip.
Well,
If you go beyond that, it's actually a felony.
I think that's actually defeated in Article 4. We covered that in our book where you are given it's and I'm going to paraphrase it here, but it says if you have rights in one state, those rights cannot be taken away from you just because you cross the border into another state. It says it in the Constitution.
Right. I am a little upset with our Supreme Court lately. They had a couple cases that they could take that are specifically about gun laws. One being the assault weapons ban and the magazine ban. And they
Wait a minute, what,
deferred it
you
and
got to
sent
cover
it back down again.
They shouldn't defer. They're the
No.
ones that need to address it.
They
That's
need to
their
specifically
duty.
address it.
And the I have a problem with the definition of even phrasing any particular individual gun
Assault
as
weapon.
an assault weapon.
I do too. I just used it because it's
Have you seen a love weapon?
Assault is a verb, isn't it?
Yeah.
Can a noun be a verb? A gun is. Can a gun be an assault?
It could be used for an assault.
Right.
I mean, listen, they had to figure out what AR meant for, and that's what they came up with.
Right. Yeah.
You know, they had no idea this
But
took the
that's a
Armalite rifle.
problem.
Right.
That's a problem.
I've been told that I can own as many AR-47s as I want.
Nice.
You know, but there's no reason for that. You could, even if you own 100,
Well-
you don't need to.
Well, then the
I
gun
said, I haven't found
manufacturers,
one yet.
Right. Yeah.
gun manufacturers need to change it and call it an AR-47.
Yeah.
But that's how stupid it's gotten, even at the Supreme Court. And I don't, I look at these guys, the ones that everybody on the left had a problem with. What's her name there? The one that, what's one of the recent?
Kagan.
No.
Barrett.
Barrett. The left, they lambasted her, and I was like, okay, well, let's see. I don't know anything about Barrett, and neither did most of the people that lambasted her.
They went after her because Trump nominated
her. Her family is deep state. Her family.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And she has not voted consistently across the board. I think she's crazy. Mm-hmm. Kavanaugh, he's weak. The only two that have been consistent, and I would have to, even for 100% consistency, I have to go down to one, and that is Clarence Thomas.
Right.
I appreciate Clarence Thomas from a number of perspectives. It's not just that he's been consistent. It's what he's gone through in his life. So this is a guy, you ever read on him?
Not too much. No.
He's got one of the most interesting stories that particularly for a Supreme Court justice. The guy was raised in seminary, and at a time when the country was at a heightened point of racial disparities, and he was actually had a number of racial slurs thrown against him, and he got angry about it, and so he joins the Black Panthers, and thinking that this is the right thing, that people are racist. But then he joins the Black Panthers, like, you guys are no better than these guys that were assaulting me. And
racism doesn't have a set skin color.
Right.
It can happen. It's looking at the other person and judging them by their looks. It's
Anywhere, yeah.
And so he ends up, he's been the most consistent to the letter of the law justice that I have seen. I mean, you had Scalia, but he's unfortunately passed. And there is another one. What's he? He's
Alito.
Alito's really he's good.
He's good. Yeah.
There's some flexibility.
Roberts is the big disappointment. Today.
Yeah,
he started off pretty well. But
Yeah.
lately, it's like, I don't know what crawled into his brain and rotted it, but I mean, this idea has crept into the Supreme Court over a few years ago, is that their job is now somehow to protect the public from their decisions.
No.
And I remember it started a couple of years ago, maybe in Trump's first term. There was something that they had an opportunity to rule on, and they deferred it because they were afraid that if they made a ruling, it would cause more riots. I remember this distinctly coming out.
Well,
not-
it happened during the
that's not
election
up
of
to them.
2020.
And you know what? That's not your job.
Right.
Your
Correct.
job is to say, hey, listen, what is this ruling? How is it compared to the Constitution? It's that simple. Is it constitutional or is it not?
Right.
Meaning,
And it doesn't matter what party you're a part of
and
or who
honestly,
you support.
the way they should be looking at it is simply to this: does the Constitution give us authority to do this?
Right.
Because that's where it has to come from. And if it is not in the Constitution,
Then it's
you don't have the authority to do it. The government is not all powerful.
right.
It is not, Oz sitting behind a
of
big
us.
curtain telling us what to do.
It's of us. The government, like you said, just has to interpret the Constitution well. To the point you just made about the deferring it to a lower court, that's wrong.
Yeah.
It's this is a problem in the society.
Well, that's why it went to the Supreme Court in the beginning.
Correct. And the precedent that you just set as the
Means I
Supreme
can skirt
Court.
my job. I'm gonna come collect a paycheck and make somebody else do my work.
Yeah.
That's horrible. So back to looking at history and these moments of what drives civil unrest into civil anarchy, into civil war. We're going down that path.
Yeah.
The whole point of the Supreme Court was to address these issues of the Constitution, not pass it down to the lower courts. It either is or it isn't, man.
Right.
Speak your mind.
Yeah.
Tell me where the law is correct.
We wouldn't have needed the Supreme Court if it wasn't for the lower courts.
And realistically, the way that Constitution is written, there is no room for interpretation of it, in my mind. It's the letter of the law.
Right.
It says shall not be infringed. There is no going around that. And anybody that's trying to skirt that is the problem.
In a lot of ways, it's probably one of the most clear
Yes,
amendments that we have.
correct.
Oh yeah, right.
I agree.
I mean, yes,
And that
free
was
speech,
intentional.
but guess what? Free speech doesn't say what about you know, if you exceed it in this area.
Right.
People
Can
are
it be
like,
graphic speech?
yeah,
Can it
right.
be
I mean, if
whatever?
it harms people, and
Well, they covered
I'm-
that in freedom of press and
Right.
things like that too.
But I'm of the, but that, look, we've taken freedom of press and basically said you can do anything you want, anywhere
you
you
can
want, without
lie.
any limits.
Yeah.
You know,
you-
and I think that's excessive.
You'd have to go back and you'd have to say to our framers, ask them a question and try to determine that answer. Okay, do you think that this country that you just created with the 13 stars on it, do you think it's acceptable to burn that in this country that you just put lives on the line for?
Oh, I guarantee that answer would have been no unanimously.
Unanimously. And so now we get into this playing these word games, and it's okay to play the word games in the media and play the word games everywhere else. When it comes to that law, it's not okay whatsoever.
I personally believe there should only be one way allowed to burn an American flag in protest.
That's to retire it.
No, that's to wrap it around yourself and
Set
douse
it
it
on
with
fire.
gasoline.
Oh, okay. Fair
If you're
enough.
going to do it in
Retire it.
protest,
Yeah,
yep,
do it all the way.
that's the only way you get to do it.
Do it all the way.
If you can't suck up to that level, you don't have the right to be doing it. You're just a pussy.
Yeah.
You know, no pun intended.
you
I mean,
wanna-
no.
You want to stand for a cause, then do it. I'm all for it. What do we got? Oh, yeah, we got some comments.
Doug said his butter knife identifies as an assault weapon. It would if you lived in England.
It would, and that's lunacy. I mean, how do we get? I think cutting and stabbings are actually exponentially higher than gun shootings.
I would.
Probably even in our country, I don't know.
I
But
got to be honest with you,
I can
though.
tell you what, the mortality rate of knives is like 3-1 to gunshots.
I would
Yeah, so
rather.
that's quite a bit
I
different.
got to be honest with you. I would rather be shot to death than stabbed to death.
Stabbing, you're gonna die.
But-
Statistically, you have much greater chances of dying from a stabbing.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is not all stabbings are quick.
That's what I'm saying. I would rather just be shot. So whatever. Yeah, the stabbings. Yeah, it's brutal.
I mean, I just want to go to bed one night and not wake up in the morning
Right.
when I'm like 95 years old. But
that's the ideal situation. That is the ideal situation.
no offense, honey, but if we can go together, that'd be best. So
Perfect. What's that? What's that saying? When I die, I want to go peacefully, like my grandfather driving his car, not like all the passengers in it,
screaming.
screaming like all the passengers in it.
I found a thing on the internet. I posted it to my page. It was hilarious. So it's this little kid sitting in a car with a cup of tea, and he goes, "I like people like my tea." He goes, "In a bag, underwater." The kid's like maybe 6 years old or
Wow.
something. It's just hilarious. Just his look. He's like, you know,
Who's your father?
yeah.
That's awesome.
BZS is coming to your house.
Well, listen, fellas, what do you think? Well, I think it's time to go outside and enjoy some of this cool evening. Maybe
I think
smoke a
so, too.
cigar or
Yeah.
two. And
I think we've solved maybe some of the world's problems tonight. We'll see what happens.
All right.
Wake up in the morning and see if anything's better.
hey,
I wish this is the one thing I do wish. I wish we could have more like
Interaction.
immediate interaction and have that which on TikTok we can, but you've been having an issue with getting us set
Yeah,
up
I haven't
on
tried it recently.
China's really operating.
Yeah, actually, I didn't even think I was going to be able to get onto Facebook tonight. I was trying to get on, and did you guys hear this thing about these solar flares?
No.
Like this week, they were supposed to be really
I mean, it's possible.
messing with the electronics. So I had two things happen to me, and I'm like, all right, whatever. Rihanna told me, I was in the news, these solar flares are happening, and like a lot of digital stuff, electronic stuff's going to be acting funky.
My phone's been weird for the last couple
Okay,
days.
there you go.
That picture you sent me of you with the koozie drinking,
Yeah, yeah.
I could not open that.
Oh, really?
I could
Not at all.
Yeah, I do agree.
I
It
couldn't
was-
and matter of fact, most of the stuff on my phone, I was trying to touch the screen, and it wouldn't let me do it.
Oh, well, I couldn't get on Facebook tonight. And yesterday I took a ride on my bike and I have a GPS. There's a compass rose. I swear I'm heading south and the thing's saying I'm heading north. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be lost because
It is a Connecticut roadway. There's no
Yeah.
guarantee that you weren't.
but then I make a couple turns and it never changed. It was
Yeah.
just said I was going north.
Yeah.
And then last night I called my father on the phone. I was sitting on the patio talking to him. That phone dropped no less than 6 times.
Wow.
I had to call him seven times. I had to call him to finish a 5-minute conversation. I'm
Well, that same picture he's talking about, it came through. It was locked, but you didn't have any clothes on.
Well, I'm not wearing pants right now, so I at least put a shirt on when you guys showed up.
Thankfully. It's a long shirt.
Yeah. They call it, I think they call it porky pigging it, is, I think, the term for that.
Porky pig.
You never heard of that? Guys walking around just a t-shirt, no underwear?
No.
It's porky pigging
I haven't tried that enough to know there needed to be a name.
Go home, try it tonight, see how your wife likes it. Hey, honey, I'm just going to run around the house. I'm just going to porky pig it for the rest of the night. She's probably going to...
Not let me do that.
She's probably going to lock the door before you get home.
Put the alarm on.
You should get ready before you go home. Just take your pants off before you jump in the Jeep.
Right? Yeah.
You'll be ready to go. Eric, you're leaving?
Yeah, I'll be back.
All right. So I think we're going to sign off, but appreciate you guys that watched. Thanks for the comments. Kevin, it was awesome having you here.
I love being here. This is great.
We're not done yet, but
No,
I think
yeah.
that'll conclude our little...
This is the only thing that everybody's invited to. You guys are going to have to go in.
Yeah, this is very cool. So I like doing this. Well,
Yeah, no, I
I mean, the
enjoy
other
it.
thing is we can't just sit around bullshitting for 3 hours on a normal Thursday night because usually when we
You got
start
your other stuff to do.
recording,
Yeah, right.
you know, we could go anywhere from usually it's about what, an hour and a half once we start recording.
When
our-
we start recording, we can obviously go an hour and a half too. So.
we're at an hour and 29 minutes and 30
Yeah.
seconds right now.
Yeah.
So, but it's just conversation. It's just three guys hanging out, shooting
Right.
shit,
Yeah.
drinking beers, and
Giving their opinions on stuff people don't want to hear.
you know what? If we can sway some people into believing our lies, then cool. If not, oh well, we tried.
Well, believing our truths.
For me,
That's
I just want to have, and you said it, it's a fact-based conversation and just say, okay, let's go ahead and look at facts. And with somebody on the opposite side and have a list of these things and say, okay, now, does this, you see what the facts are? Is your mind changed? If your mind is not changed based on facts, then you've got a problem.
But that's the case. Have you ever changed anybody's mind over Facebook posts? Have you? I mean,
No.
people believe what they believe
I
for a
honestly
reason.
said the first thing that we have to do if we really want to solve the divide in our country
Let's be honest.
is shut down social media.
You do have to be honest. Well,
No, we need to shut down social
Social media.
Because guess what? When you look at someone on the other screen, you don't really give a fuck what they think.
No.
You just want to say what you want and see if they get mad or
Well,
not.
the other side of that too, though, is I wanted to end this, but let's get into this.
Okay.
I'm gonna take a quick bathroom break, and I'll be
All right.
right back.
All right.
Because I just want to say something that'll we'll
just
probably get into it.
open a window there.
I got an empty bottle. No,
Yeah.
I think this will get us into another 10-minute conversation. So I'll be right back.
All right. Call your friends. Tune in quick. This is
So-
going to get good.
So yeah, I mean, I do think that you should be able to have a list and say, is that true? For instance, I'll give you the topic. The topic is, was there a party switch in the 60s? I say absolutely not.
I agree with you.
There were, I think, 2 people that actually switched parties. But if you want to go back and reflect on 2 presidents
Yep.
on the conservative side or Republican side, Reagan was a Democrat. Trump was a Democrat for a majority of his life.
Right.
I even think that by Kennedy's standards, I agreed a lot with Kennedy. I would have voted for the
I
guy.
think as of today, Kennedy's still alive. He would be a Republican.
I agree.
So I think the difference is when people say the party switched, isn't that back then the parties were much closer. They were both much closer to the middle.
Okay.
You know, so when you talk about, oh, these parties switched, they just had to lean one
Well-
way or the other way just a little bit to be considered on the other side of the line.
You say that, which I agree, but then
I mean,
you go back.
for mainstream politics. I mean,
Right.
obviously not,
Well-
civil rights movements and things like that. It's always been primarily the Republicans pushing that and taking care of it.
Right, the largest filibuster was
until-
over the civil rights movement.
Until the Democrats tried to rein them in as their, basically like their little pawns. They tried convincing people that they were the party that
For
was
the
gonna,
people.
that was going to even everything out and that was going to do everything for the minority population of this country and make things right again.
Well, I find
They
that
never did a damn thing for it, but
No.
they claimed it every election since 1960.
agreed that I mean LBJ is one of I think the guy's horrendous. I listened to a lot of the recordings. I read some things on this guy. I mean, he came out and said it. I mean, he was like, look, we'll have these people voting Democrat for the next 200 years.
Because
And-
they're going to make them in basically owned by the government with the benefits and the benefits that they wanted to give them. And
Right.
Right.
know?
So it's not, as he called them, the Enners, but it's the people that are in the poverty-stricken state.
right.
They get the crumbs tossed when we talk about the boiling frog. Well, now you're getting crumbs tossed to you, and that's what's keeping you on the teat. And I don't understand. I never understood that mentality because you're not making enough. I don't know how you're making enough. Yeah, you might get this perception that you're not having to work, but you're not living.
If
You're-
you don't
you're
know any
existing.
better,
Right.
know any better, Eric. If
And back
that's
then,
all
it was
you
one
know-
thing. Back then, it was enough to survive, and people were satisfied with surviving back then.
Right. But to you, what you just said, if you don't know any better, okay, and that's what when I get into some of these things is to try to make you know better, but when you don't want to look at the facts of go down a list, true, false, fact, blah,
Right.
blah, blah. And some of them may be mixed and it might add some confusion, but factually speaking, Joe Biden had praised and supported, as well as Hillary Clinton and the Democrat Party in the 90s, a guy named Robert K. Byrd. Robert
KKK.
Byrd White was a senior leader,
Deputy Grand Wizard or something
Yeah,
like that. He was,
of
he was
the
like second
Klan.
in charge of the Klan.
Yeah.
Okay, and that was in the 90s.
And he was one of their biggest supporters, all of them.
Correct.
But that's okay. That's okay for them. Everybody looks
Well,
past that. That's
if
But
you
that's
do-
what I mean about facts, though, and looking at things.
But they
from a
can't. They can't
factual-
even take those facts and compare them against each other. When you ask them and say Donald Trump said this, and it's some obscure thing that was taken out of context,
or taken
and they're like,
cut.
and they're like, he's a racist. You're like, all right, what about all these comments?
what
And like,
about Joe Biden
they're
saying,
like-
if you don't vote for me, you ain't black?
But that's the thing is, you tell them those comments, and if you tell them Donald Trump, they're like, how? See
That's
how
the
racist that
worst.
is?
Yeah.
And you go, wait a minute. He didn't say, it. Oh, well, they're not that bad.
Yeah, that
I'm
was
sure he
Hillary-
didn't mean.
that was
I mean,
Hillary
that's
Clinton.
in their own mind.
That was Joe Biden.
They're like,
That-
okay, we are dismissive of facts if it doesn't support our.
narrative.
But that's a cult right there.
right, yeah.
That is an actual a cult that they. And Pelosi said it the best when she said, well, the wrap up smear. And she's literally telling the people what they're doing. They're making up the story and lie about themselves. And they're just getting it to the press and getting it out to the media.
And let the rest do the work.
And then you
people
got
are
the
under
Goonie
this-
Goo Goo tribe that comes up and they start agreeing with
People
it.
are under the fake impression that if it's on the news, it's gospel.
So that brings me back to the point I wanted to make. And Doug just kind of hit the nail on the head here. He says, it can be argued that the internet and social media has had an equally negative and positive effect on society. So,
Society as a whole, yes, I'll agree with that because there's been a lot of beneficial things,
100%.
especially from the internet. Social media, I think, is a little harder to argue. It gives people some connection back, and I think it's helped with a lot of people that suffer depression. They can reach out and they can meet other people,
Right.
maybe fill that back in a little bit. But overall, I think social media has been the great divider politically in this country.
100%.
I think that
And not just social media. I mean, we're talking media in general. I'm talking
media,
newspaper.
but I
I'm
think-
talking
personally
television,
it's
radio.
social media, because social media you can voice your opinion,
Right.
but you have no expectation of changing anybody's mind. You just want to get out there and
You just
rail
wanna
against
blast,
somebody.
yeah.
But if I meet you in person and we have a conversation,
Right.
we're not going to go at fisticuffs about our politics. We're going to sit there
Correct.
and we're going to talk about your opinion versus my
So-
opinion and see where we come. Do we have anything in common? I have a friend who's a super liberal. But when we were on a cruise together and we sat down, we had a cigar and a drink and we started talking, and there's a lot of things that we agree with
You want the same
in
things.
terms of our government.
Right.
Now, we disagreed on the obvious things. He's against guns. I'm definitely
Right.
for them.
So he's against the Constitution.
Yeah, but I mean, and I threw that out at him, and I don't pull any punches when I'm playing that game. But at the same time, I mean, there's a lot of things that we both understand that corporate involvement in our government is excessive and needs to stop.
Right.
The big money in our government needs to go away. Everybody should have a chance at government, regardless of what level of life you're coming from.
I agree 100% with that one.
And that we even agreed on term limits for everybody.
Yeah.
Now, he might not have agreed with specifically what I thought, because I think mine are kind of conservative a little bit. But I think mine takes away the desire to look for corrupt ways of becoming rich. If you're going into government and you're only spending 6 years there, Now you could potentially spend 12 because if you start as a congressman and then move to a senator, you get 12 years. You know, maybe you could even have 4
All right,
more
that's
as
fair.
president.
Yeah.
You know,
But you're looking for the betterment of the people.
right? But that should be because you're going to be judged when you go from this side to the other side.
You
You're going
wanna
to be
keep
judged on
going.
what you accomplished in 6 years. And guess what? The people that get in and just want to do that 6-year term, they're probably going to be trying to accomplish something.
Right.
And you're going to be judged against that person whether you did anything or not.
But the other problem is if you go in there and you're a schlep and you come back to your
Right.
eyeglass business or your law practice or your framing business and you were a piece of shit to everybody that you represented, you're not going to make it anymore.
But guess what? That's your choice. You made
That's
that.
it.
You made that bet.
That's it.
You both said something that I wanted to key in on. It was almost crossing, and I don't know. I forget what I was going to say because then I jumped to another topic and I missed that one too.
So the point I wanted to make about the social media and the, you know, what you're spoon fed by the news and everything else. So this weekend, and I got to give a shout out to Nick Alevres. Well, he put us in contact with you, Kevin, for one. So
Yep.
you know, there's a lot of.
I thank him for that too.
He's been very helpful to Eric and I.
yeah, Nick's a good guy.
He's put us in contact with a lot of people. He's been a huge supporter for us. But anyway, me and him are both avid motorcyclists, and he had told me about this Flag Day run that they left out of Plainfield, Connecticut It was Sunday, and it was from the VFW, and the whole point of the ride was to raise money for veterans in need, for housing and medical care and whatever else have you. But the one thing that I wanted to say is when you watch the news, you see this huge divide, and you would think that if your neighbor's a liberal and this one's a conservative and you're not seeing eye to eye, that you're at war with each other. And just like you said, you went on a cruise with one of your buddies and you guys had a good conversation. And I know Eric you're very open-minded to the same type of behavior. Like the way the media portrays everything, you walk down your street and if you're flying an American flag, you're going to get spit on by somebody that doesn't agree with your racism or whatever the case may be. So we went on this ride, and it's a Flag Day ride. And we rode through so many different towns, and the amount of people that were out there waving the flag, waving to the motorcycles.
They could have been anybody. They were Americans.
And,
Right.
Democrat,
and I'm
Republican.
going to tell you this. I saw every race, every color, every sex, every type of person that you would think this country as a melting pot would have. I saw those people. We went through some towns that weren't so wealthy. We went through some towns that were very wealthy. Mansions to rundown houses, apartments, and 90% of those homes had people outside waving American flags, cheering on the motorcyclists.
Awesome.
I saw veterans standing there in uniform. I saw people saluting from the time the pack started, which was over 1,000 motorcycles,
Wow.
to the time the last bike went by. I saw brown people. I saw white people. I saw black people. I saw women. I saw men. I saw children. I saw pets. I saw everything. And when I look at that, there's a couple times that I don't want to. It makes me tear up. But there
Yeah.
was a couple times that I had my sunglasses on. I had to pull them up and wipe the water out of my eyes
Right.
because
it does mean something.
it's
when you see
very
that.
emotional, and it makes you realize that maybe what we're being spoon fed isn't the truth.
Right.
Maybe it's not an accurate cross section of America.
Yeah. Right.
Because I think what I saw out there is more representative of what this country is about.
I think overall, my wife would agree with that. She tells me all the time. She goes, most people don't give a shit. They just want to live their lives.
Right.
And that's basically, I mean, that's kind of why I said
That was
I
going
kind
back.
of think why we wouldn't get the Civil War right away is because there's so much people that just want to live their
but
lives.
okay,
it hasn't
so-
gotten down to their level yet.
So you say that's why we wouldn't be at the Civil War. When the Civil War was over far less than that. When you really put it
was
into
then,
perspective,
yes.
And I think it always is, and it's over the same things. You had less than 3% of the people down south owned slaves. If
Right.
anyone honestly believes that those people that were fighting against the Union or the Confederates
That's
were
not why
fighting,
the war started. That's the spoon-fed version. The war
Right.
started because It was federal rights versus
States' rights.
The
Correct.
states were afraid that the federal government was going to take too much authority over it.
Correct.
Right.
And the people down there liked their freedom to make whatever decisions, good or bad.
Sure.
And they were making a lot of bad ones, obviously. But
you've got so less than 3%, but you think those people that the 98%, just put it into simple sense. If you think anyone that thinks that 98% of the people that were fighting, that even if they got into a fight, were fighting for something that they didn't own or have an interest or a dog in a hunt
Right.
on, you have to be crazy to actually believe that. You got guys, General Tecumseh Sherman, who went down to Macon, Georgia, and burned the entire city to the ground. Yes, was one of the great. He was a great general, great military guy. But you talk to the people in Macon that got their homes burned down. To your point, the people that just want to live, and they're now decimated because of what 2% of the people were doing, and we're dealing with that today. Whether it's BlackRock or it's the media,
But that's
or it's
exactly how people get drawn into that civil war.
But it is right. They weren't drawn in, right? So they were there existing.
They were conscripted through events. Basically, is what happened.
The people in Macon didn't really give a shit. They didn't own anything to
Right.
have a dog in the
Until
hunt.
someone showed up and burnt everything down, and then they're like, "Well, screw this. We're getting even."
Yeah.
Correct.
Now they're basically innocent bystanders, collateral damage to the 2%.
Americans, right? So
But I think my point for modern day is we're not at that point yet. Those people don't feel that it's reached them to that level yet, where they would be able to pick up.
I don't
weapons
think
against someone else.
modern day. It was modern day in Rome. It was modern day back then. It was modern day.
I
in
say
the
modern day just to caveat the attitude of people. By and large, our society is very complacent with their lives. There aren't people out there.
Right.
I mean, I think the numbers
comfortable.
growing. There's people growing, preparing for the bad things that could happen. But overall, most people aren't. They're like, oh, I've got to have a root cellar, and I got to
Right.
have all this stuff stored up in case
Right.
they ever lose them.
Too comfortable.
I don't have to have 12 guns and 1,200 rounds of ammunition.
Yeah.
They're
I need
like,
more like 5,000.
but I mean, they're like,
It's the head in the sand. It's the
I
ostrich.
might have a 9mm in my drawer next to my bed in case a burglar breaks in, but I don't need anything more than that because nothing bad's ever going to happen. I live in a community with police officers, and I mean they're very comfortable and complacent in the lives that they're living in, and to push them beyond that to where they're willing to pick up that 9mm and do something
Right.
they feel they have to do it to defend something. I think for most of those people, we're still a long ways off.
Yeah.
Well, let
It's
me.
going to take a boil over from things like that are happening out west
Right.
right now, where the same thing. Suddenly, those people are fighting to maintain their stuff that they were happy just having and leave me alone.
I'll break it out in another way. You don't need that majority of the people, and whether it's the veterans, I mean the military, it's 6.8% that serve, right? Less, and then there's only like 3% or 5. Let's just say it's another 7% of that serve that actually pay that price, right? You don't need that. No different than you needed 7 guys taking control of a number of airplanes during 9/11
Right.
to murder 3,000 people, right? And then you get the hysteria of people that what's out there now. When that starts, then it's like, okay, I've got to pick a side here.
The only
You're
way
going-
I
it can
truly see
happen.
that happening.
And it's not
Where-
happening in a flashbang type
no,
of scenario.
yeah. I mean,
that
even that-
flashbang scenario will set it off.
Even then, it wasn't. Yes, if you have a flashbang scenario and it slowly is conscripting people, as I call it, conscripting
that's what
people
it's
by
doing.
events.
That's what it's doing.
It's slowly happening.
Right.
But I think the only way you're going to see a massive trigger that puts us into that level is if Democrats take control of the House and Senate and the presidency again.
Right.
And they try using UN troops to take away guns from American citizens.
I believe they were very close to
They were.
doing it. Look,
That would be a
don't go any
flashbang-
further.
That would be a
Right.
flashbang event that would take the country by storm. And yes, nobody'd be looking at it as a civil war per se because it would be us against our government
Right.
troops. Again, I don't believe American troops would stand up against that. The thing about all these
Right,
other things right now is that
right.
they're small events.
agree.
And we have a good military and we have good law enforcement. And these things like the riots, they're going to be over. They're not going to last for years.
Well, okay.
They're going to go in there and
No,
eventually these people are all going to slowly start disappearing.
Sure.
And they're going to be paying their penalties for what they've done.
but again, it's the less than 3%, right? So
Yeah.
that happens. Plays on psyches of people, and it's not the first time. I mean, and I've been saying this to Rich. I'm like, look, the Civil War, even of 1863, didn't. It started well before that, right? It was just a culmination of events leading up to
Slowly
it.
worked up, yeah.
Well,
And then-
that's the whole reason of the Revolutionary War was
1865, right? It didn't happen
it
overnight.
didn't happen overnight.
Right.
It
It
all
didn't
went
happen
up.
until it did.
Right.
Right,
And even, I mean, even if you look at it, I mean, the Boston Tea Party, that didn't, it's always credited with starting the war.
right.
All it did was call attention to the fact that we've now pissed the British off and we have to make up our minds.
Right.
The British are sending soldiers to put us back in our place,
Right.
and we have a choice.
Right.
We can fight for this world that we're making,
Right.
or we can just let them come and tell us what we have to do.
Yeah.
And at the time, the people, they were like, no, fuck that. We're making our own world.
But even the Boston Massacre, when that happened, that didn't even trigger it. And
Right.
civilians
I
got
think
shot.
it was one of those ones that was close, and
It was
that's
close,
my point.
but it-
Is okay. It's history, and history does repeat itself, and I see those events unfolding. You look under the COVID thing. If you threaten to take stuff away from me, I was on a heightened end there. I'm like, nah, dude. I don't care if I check out over this. I'm going to die on my feet before I live on my knees. It's not
Right,
happening.
right.
You can just. I don't care. I'll sign anything over. I'll make any bet with anybody. That's not happening.
Right.
And when they started pushing that hard, and I watched all these people that fold under it, and I'm like, dude, what the are you doing, dude?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Look, man, this is all to hype you up, and I get it. You got a job, but stand and get more from by suing these people for this. You will win, I guarantee it. And everybody that has sued and stood their ground in the court of law has won. And we are at that threshold. Now, personally, I think COVID, from the government's perspective, at least those dirty minds at play, I think they realized that that was a test and that was a huge failure on their part because there was over 20% that didn't get that.
Not only that,
Shot.
but if you look at the stuff that's coming out now, their next try is going to be much harder to do.
Oh,
Right, because now
there-
you got a bamboozling
there's,
moment.
there's actually evidence coming out now. So the government at the time was saying that 17 point something percent of women who were in the first trimester in miscarriage, like 17% of them had something to do with COVID.
Right.
The COVID vaccine.
And that's only what's been tested, right?
However, they've recently put together a bigger test
Yeah,
of
it's probably more like 75%.
A
Right,
mortality
it's a lot.
test.
It's a lot.
it's 80 something percent.
That's incredible.
So the natural, so they weren't worried about it because it went from like 16 is the natural
Right, the-
mortality
right,
rate.
normal, yeah.
And it was like 17, they're telling everybody, I think. But it was not. It was 80, like
Right.
82%.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's not acceptable in
63%,
any
yeah.
scenario for
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah. No,
You know?
it's and it's not being like, where's the media on that?
Oh, yeah, because they don't want to. No, you had to know that what you were told by the government was 100. They're still decrying the evidence that is coming out on all the aspects of it right now. The increase in all the cardiac events and all the stuff that goes along
Yeah,
with
the
it.
myocarditis, the
Yeah.
the young
Like,
athletes.
this is global.
dying. Yeah, it's
Right.
everywhere.
So, and how this is how stupid people are. So they're saying that that there's direct linkage to myocarditis, which is an infection in the lining around the heart. And people are like, well, that's because they were all smoking.
right.
Nope.
Smoking has nothing to do with that at all.
Nope. And but that's how
There
stupid you
has to
got
be
people.
a perforation of that lining to cause the infection.
Right.
Something did that.
Yeah.
It wasn't smoking.
No, it's an abrasive material that was injected into your bloodstream that's now causing.
Called graphene.
Correct. That's exactly what it is.
Well,
So-
listen, we could go on for hours
Yeah, we
and
will
hours.
too. Let's go smoke.
You know,
go smoke some
we
weed.
we were at 1 hour. Now we're at 2.
Sorry, people.
Are we at 2 hours? Yeah, we are. We're
1
almost
Is
hour,
there.
anybody still
52
watching?
minutes.
There's 4. We've had 4.
I don't know, but the point is, you know what? I am gonna throw this video up on our
Do it.
YouTube channel, 56Plus1, and
Let's get a lot of views.
you know, when
Lot of hate
people
now.
want to check it out, check it out. I mean, it's awesome. And this video will stay up on Facebook for 30 days, and we've got the audio file. So if we ever want to load it to our Spotify
Or you just
Apple,
call me back and we'll continue right where we
Yeah,
left
we
off.
can, it's easy. But this is a good conversation. It's a good change. I mean,
Right.
so yeah, we appreciate you, Kevin, Eric. It's been fun.
I appreciate
All
you
right.
guys too.
Great
Thank you for
conversation.
having
I'm
me.
sure we'll continue it again outside on the patio.
Oh, I'm sure.
Smoke a fine cigar. But my name is Rich, and I'm a +1.
And I'm Eric. I'm a +1.
And I'm Kevin, and I'm a +1.
Awesome. Thanks for stopping by, guys.
We had to jump up to 6, then back down to 5. No, but those are the types. But I'd like.